and welcome to the, for once, aptly named Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And the weekly Sean Chapman.
All right. So we are weekly this week because literally 1 week ago, this is Thursday?
Yes.
Last Thursday we recorded an episode?
Yeah, almost at this exact same time as well.
Yeah. So, pretty good. For these two episodes, we're holding, or maybe just this one episode, I don't know how you really qualify it.
Yeah.
But in any case, it's weekly because we're back, we're talking, and we're recording this actually on a brand new computer.
Yes, we are.
So that's like a tradition, I guess, is that when one of us gets a new computer, we talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
It is relevant to the podcasting process.
It is a significant development.
It is. Yes. There's a couple reasons. I got a new computer. It's an Asus. It's really nice. It's a PC. I've been using a Mac for a couple years now. I kind of got sick of Mac.
Yeah.
A couple things. One, I wanted a computer that was more powerful, just baseline, because I had a MacBook Pro with Retina display, and that was powerful to move all those pixels around, but not to do anything else. Mm-hmm. So, I could play Papers, Please, but my computer would get so hot I couldn't touch it, playing Papers, Please. So, that was a problem.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Other reason, I was just kind of sick of the Mac operating software, because you get to a point where you're not allowed to do things enough that you want to be able to do those things.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I can do those things on PC. Mm-hmm. Really, I can do anything on PC. Yeah. All right. And finally, they announced their new Mac operating software over the summer, as they always do.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate the direction they're going with it. They're just making it look like iPhone, and they're stripping out functionality. And it's just like, I want my computer to be a fucking computer. I like my iPhone. I love my iPhone, but I love it as an iPhone, not my desktop computer. It's a laptop, but, I use it on top of my desk. So, anyway... Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When you're shopping for a PC, that's a stressful process because there's lots of options.
Yeah, because, Apple obviously is the only people who manufacture Macs, so there's a very limited selection. But there's a billion different PC laptops that you could buy. But
the good thing about that is I could get pretty much exactly what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And this has everything I wanted. The only thing that it didn't have is it's got a DVD drive in it, not a Blu-ray drive. And I could have gotten the Blu-ray drive if I ordered it from a place that could custom build it, but that would cost so much more.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't need it. I've got other things that can play Blu-rays. I, basically need that drive to be able to install things once in a while and to spot check DVDs for essays and movies and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And other than that, it was affordable, but it's really powerful. It's got a NVIDIA graphics card in there, which is, I don't know how much gaming I'll be doing on this, but I'll tell you from the stuff I've done so far with it, I really like being able to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, certainly for last gen games I want to go replay, this is the way I want to do it. Like, I got, just because it was cheap and I wanted to test it out, I got BioShock Infinite, and I played about an hour and a half of that last night. Really fun on this, and definitely looks better than it did on 360. So yeah. And then there's the stressful world of PC gaming where you have to figure out what can be high, what can be low.
Yeah. You have to mess around with all the configurations and stuff to get the frame rate you want. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, but it's cool. It's a nice computer, and honestly, the biggest surprise for me is that I'd looked at Windows 8.1 previously, and I knew I would be comfortable moving to it because I think they've done a lot of nice stuff with that operating system. But I was surprised so far just how much I like Windows 8.1 so far. I've had it for about a week, and I really like this operating system. I think, on the surface, they've done a lot of things to make it easier to use than older versions of Windows. You can get to your, volume faster. You can get to your networking. You can get to, if you want to flip a display or something, all of that a lot faster. But I think it's also a very deep operating system. And, just like the start menu, a lot of people complain about the way you can just endlessly customize that if you want, or ignore it entirely if you want.
Yeah.
Like, my computer just launches into desktop. I would never have to pay attention to that start screen if I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. But I do sometimes because I can put all my apps there that I want to see. Like, it reminds me, there's a feature on Macs they've had since OS X Lion, where you can, swipe in and it shows you all your apps, and they look like they do on the iPhone.
Yeah.
But that screen sucks, because on your desktop...
It's completely useless.
Completely useless. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Metro interface actually does that kind of thing, but a lot more efficiently.
Yeah.
So, there's just a lot of things like that. And it's just been fun. Oh, I've also gotten to use the new version of Office 2013, and I really like it. I've been stuck with the Mac 2011 version for years. And it's gotten old, and it wasn't really working anymore, and it looked ugly, and so it's nice. It's pretty much the same thing, but it looks nicer.
Yeah.
So,
I like Windows 8 as well. Yeah.
Here's the most interesting thing about this computer to me, though. It's got a beautiful display. I love the screen. My actually only complaint is that Sean, what you're looking at right now is the dimmest setting. I wish it went 1 or 2 steps dimmer for some cases, but that's the best complaint you could possibly have. So yeah, it's a beautiful display. It's 1080p. It's really nice. It's a touchscreen. I don't use that much, but I like that it's there.
Yeah.
So, all of that is great. And the interesting thing, though, is that my old computer was that Retina display, so that's higher than 1080p. I don't know if there's a technical resolution for it. That always hurt my eyes. And I thought at first it was just I needed time to adjust to that display. And I kept thinking that. And then when I realized, no, this is giving me eye strain, was past the return period for that computer. And I can use this computer for significantly longer. Pixels are actually your friend, I think, in some cases. I don't know why. It's a lot easier on my eyes. Because I think there's less visual... I think when it's a laptop and it's that close to your screen, less visual information might be better in some cases. I don't know. But I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
So, in any case... Yes, and we're recording the podcast on it. Things might sound a little different. We're using the same microphone, but, everything else is different right now. So, we'll see. We tested it. I think it sounds good. Some things are going to change. I'm changing how we do the song at the beginning. And I should say, now that we're going to talk about the actual content of the episode, this is a Doctor Who episode.
Yes, it is.
I'll tell you what we're talking about in a minute.
At long last.
At long last, another Doctor Who episode. And I've had a track I've been waiting to use. And that was our theme song today. That was... My brother Thomas, who you've heard on this show a couple of times, talking about Zelda, probably.
I think that was
Skyrim and things.
Yeah, I think that was the only. That was when he opened his mouth last time. Yeah,
if Zelda came up. He's a really talented clarinet player. He also writes music, and he has a clarinet quartet called Clarinets Cantables, and that's him and 3 friends. And this was from a summer concert they did last year, and. Basically, what they played 2 Doctor Who songs. One was the original Ron Grainer theme, which you heard at the top of the show, and Thomas arranged that all by himself from ear from the song. I think that's impressive, and for clarinet. So I think that's fun to listen to. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And then, let's see, at the end of the episode, I'm going to go ahead and put in the other song from that concert they did, which was a arrangement of the 11th Doctor theme. And it's basically an arrangement. If you have the Season 5 soundtrack, it's that track, I Am the Doctor. Yeah. So you just took that and transposed it for clarinet, and it sounds really fun too. So we'll play that, and and I wanted to put those in here because this is just a Doctor Who celebration episode.
Exactly.
We love doing these. Oftentimes when we talk about Doctor Who, it's very current. We're talking about either the newest episode or news or developments or something in Doctor Who. But we're going back to the past a little bit. So
appropriate for Doctor Who. Yeah.
So yes. So Sean, this Saturday.
Yes.
12th Doctor.
Yes.
New Doctor debuts. Series 8.
12th Doctor.
It's just forget it. We have to forget that. He's just the 12th Doctor.
No, Stephen Moffat fucked everything up. You can't just ignore that. He fucked everything up. So every time we say 12th Doctor, you have to go now because of him. It's his fault.
Because we don't even know if he's supposed to be 13 or 14 because of that special David Tennant regeneration. Exactly. Which we don't know how that counts. So,
until he retcons everything and fixes it. We have to go.
The Doctor played by Peter Capaldi.
Yes.
Can we go with that?
Yes, sure.
So, are you excited for the new Doctor?
Yes. I'm excited for Doctor number...
Yeah. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. And I think this is a really... I want to talk about this because what we're doing today is looking back at other Doctor introduction episodes. I'm really excited to see how they handle this and what he's like as the Doctor, because what interests me is that this is the first Doctor, at least of the modern era, and maybe ever, who is played by a very famous, recognizable, celebrated actor.
Peter Davison was pretty well known when he took over the role.
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting. Yeah, but this is at least the first in a long time. And, we all, many of us would know Peter Capaldi from other roles that he's famous for, and seeing how that's going to translate into a new Doctor, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah.
So...
I'm super fucking stoked.
Yes. So it should be good.
It's been a really long time.
Yes.
Since the last new Doctor Who, so...
Luckily, I've been really busy since the last Doctor Who episode, so it hasn't felt that long, but yeah, it's been a long time. And, it's so happy we're getting 12 uninterrupted episodes, and then a Christmas special, so it's like we're getting a lot at once. And then, I don't know, it might be 3 years before we do another one. And Peter Capaldi will be 80, and it'll just be, So who knows?
Yeah, because that's how people age. They go from 55 to 80 in 3 years.
So anyway, yes, we were talking about Doctor introduction episodes today because we're going to see a Doctor introduction episode and talk about it soon. And it's such an interesting kind of episode for Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really pivotal, important moment in the show every time you switch over the Doctor, because it's like, it's a completely new actor taking over the lead role, and they haven't totally fucked up the person playing the Doctor yet, but there's always a chance. There's always a chance it's like, oh God, they've ruined everything.
Yeah. And what's most interesting, I think, is that because every Doctor has been beloved in their own ways.
Yeah.
When you get to the end of a Doctor's lifespan, you're usually gonna get a really good episode where they regenerate, and that's sad, and you're kind of sad to see them go.
Yeah.
And this new guy comes in, and they have to establish themselves and make you love this incarnation now, and they usually don't have a ton of time to do it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting challenge. We're going to be talking about 4 of them today. We've got Spearhead from Space, the 3rd Doctor introduction, the Twin Dilemma, the 6th Doctor introduction, Sean's favorite episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, let's just say that now. Yeah.
And 2 modern ones. We're going to look at the Christmas Invasion, which is the 10th Doctor, and the 11th Hour, which is the 11th Doctor. All interesting in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, before we do that, Sean, anything going on in the world we want to talk about? Any stuff?
I don't know. Is there any stuff?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, I should say in the entertainment world, the world
like parts of America have been plunged in some horrific militarized police state.
Yeah,
but that's not important.
I honestly, the podcast is catharsis from that right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget about it because that's not good, but I don't want to think about it for the next 2 hours because it's just. If you turn on the news anywhere in the world right now, it's just fucking sad and terrible. So we're going to talk about Doctor Who because Doctor Who is cathartic, goddammit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My only stuff going on is I finished The Last of Us Remastered.
Nice.
That I will say, there were parts of that game where, that didn't hit me as hard as I did the first time, but then I think everything from winter to the end, every inch is powerful the second time you play it.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And every inch is difficult in some cases. Although, I'll say, you get to, how spring is pretty much just the hospital portion.
Yeah.
And you get to the hospital, and when I played it the first time, that was a very difficult part of the game for me. Mm-hmm. This time I got to that first combat scenario in the hospital, which took me like 2 hours the first time I played the game. And I checked everything I had, and I was like, I have ammo on everything. I have bombs. I have smoke bombs.
Yeah.
I have Molotov cocktails. I have 3 health kits. You people are fucked.
Yeah.
And I just fucking toyed with these assholes.
Yeah. Since, this was my second playthrough, I also, had way more stuff than I did before because of, just playing it a lot better than I did the first time through. So, it's been nice just having... Because I'm still playing it on hard, but I have, all the resources I could ever fucking need.
Yeah, there were a lot of parts of the game where I kind of wished I'd played it on a harder difficulty, because it was just I am God.
Yeah.
None of you stand a chance. It went from, in winter, you play as Ellie, which is really tough because you have nothing.
Yeah.
But then it went back to Joel, and I'm just like, you people are fucked. I have fucking a full shotgun.
Yeah.
You people are fucked. So it was, different kind of game when you play it that way.
Yeah.
But it's fun. So, and then I wanted to mention on here, because I mentioned this last week, that I really love the photo mode.
Yeah.
And so I finally, now that I'm finished, I got all my photos onto my computer, and I've edited them and looked at them, and I've arranged them into some galleries, and I'm going to go ahead and put those up on the website, jonathanlatt.com, maybe along with this podcast, maybe a day or two later. You'll see it's still a lot of work to get them all up there, but I think they're fun. I'll go ahead and just open a couple here. This is one of my favorite ones. I like being able to do this where you could turn things into looking like a film noir.
Yeah. That's
always fun. So this is a shot of Joel and Tess facing someone down. That was fun. And then some open matte versions of those. Let's see. Shots of Joel pointing a gun at Ellie.
Yeah.
Because you have to do that.
It's the classic. Yeah. Everybody did that.
Yeah. And then gore shots. Like this one where Clicker's head is exploding.
Yeah.
Or this one where Joel is kneeing someone in the head against a school bus. I like that one. That one's pretty gnarly.
Was this very cathartic for you? Just creating all these acts of just gruesome, disgusting violence and then recording it for yourself so you can go back and look at it whenever you want to.
Yes, I mean, that's part of it. But then, there were, honestly, most of them were more in the, environment section.
I'm looking forward to going into your room and just, having those pictures of, you breaking clickers' heads open, all over the wall.
Yeah. But, look at these, this is a sunset I got.
Yeah.
And there's so many beautiful things in this game. That's not so beautiful, but yeah. There's just so many interesting things you can do, and honestly, with all the framing devices you had in that photo mode and all the color devices, you could make things look really cool, and honestly practice some, what feels like actual photography in some cases.
Yeah.
So I made the city of Boston look like something from Persona 3, That's fun. So in any case, it's fun. They're going to be up probably in 3 posts because these are, obviously HD images, and I can't put them all up on one page of the website because it would crash. Mm-hmm. But yes, they will be up there. That should be fun. Just because we've been talking about Last of Us and we like that, I thought that would be a nice thing to put up. So that will go up sometime this weekend. We'll see if I have time. I'm moving this weekend, so everything's hectic.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Sean, you want to talk some Doctor Who?
Let's talk about some Doctor Who, John.
Yeah. All right, so we're starting with this third Doctor episode, Spearhead from Space.
Yes.
Often acclaimed as one of the best Doctor Who episodes of all time.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Yes, so it comes with a certain pedigree, just as the Twin Dilemma comes with a certain pedigree.
Exactly, yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so let's talk about this. This was, the second time we'd met a new Doctor after Regeneration, because obviously William Hartnell is just introduced as the Doctor in the middle of his life, near the end of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we've got that, and then the second Doctor's introduction episode does not exist. Can you tell us anything about it? You've probably watched a reconstruction.
Yeah, but watching this, my memory of the reconstructions is so hazy because it's such a weird way to experience it.
Yeah.
But I remember it being really interesting. I think it's Power of the Daleks. It's one of the Daleks.
It's Power of the Daleks, I think. Yeah.
There's so many fucking Dalek episodes. I can never keep their names straight anymore. Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's an interesting introduction to, because that's the first time they ever had to do it,
right?
But yeah, I don't have any real particular memories of it. I'd have to rewatch it.
I'm only asking because I'm curious how they handled it, because Spearhead from Space is so clearly the model for Doctor introduction stories going forward. It feels very modern in a lot of ways in how the Doctor is introduced. And I just think that's interesting because this was, only their second go-round at it.
Yeah.
And they really mastered it.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you didn't master it early on, the show would have just died. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting. My basic summary of this one is it's got the third Doctor being awesome, and I am a huge third Doctor fan, so that's great. It's got lots of the Brigadier.
Yeah.
It's got this weird, kind of incomprehensible, slow burn alien invasion story. What more could you want?
What's incomprehensible about it?
It's just kind of confusing.
It's the fucking Nestine are landing on Earth, and they're trying to replace key figures in the British government with plastic duplicates of themselves.
My only issue with this episode is most of that is revealed in the last 10 minutes of the serial.
Sure, it's all in the end of the third episode and the fourth episode.
Yeah, they really shove it all kind of into the end there, and I don't know, I zoned out on some of it, but the Autons are cool.
Sense to me.
Okay. The Autons are cool.
Yeah, they are.
I think it was interesting. They got a really cool design for them, even with their limited budget at the time.
Yeah.
Which is a great contrast to the aliens in the Twin Dilemma, even Star Trek, the original series, would not have done something that bad.
Oh, God. In Twin Dilemma, it's bad. We can't talk about Twin Dilemma.
No, not yet. All right, but Sean, why do you love Spearhead from Space?
It's just a really, really solid Doctor Who story. Especially as an introduction to the third Doctor. The way they pace it and the way they handle it is so perfect that the Doctor, he lands in the TARDIS, he falls out, and this is not only just an introduction to the third Doctor, this is an introduction to the whole third Doctor era, which if you've listened to our other Doctor Who podcasts, or you know a lot about Doctor Who, you would know the third Doctor era is very, very different, because most of it is all set on Earth, and it has an expanded supporting cast, because you have characters like the Brigadier and then other unit figures in there that appear in almost every single episode in the third Doctor era. And so that's a huge shift for the whole series, and so this kind of has to introduce that. And so it's interesting because most of the first two episodes, the Brigadier and Liz Shaw are kind of actually your main characters and who you're following through, and they're kind of following the main plot, and the Doctor is incapacitated in the hospital.
A very common trope for this kind of episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you were introduced to the new Doctor's regeneration through these other figures that you are, at least the Brigadier, who you are already familiar with. And the pacing of that's just handled really well. And I haven't watched this one in a while, and rewatching it, I really noticed that it has a much more stylized sense to the direction and the editing than most episodes of Doctor Who from this era have. Is there's just a lot of, they're just interesting cuts and stuff that they do, that it's not just really straightforward. They really put a sense of style and flair to it, and part of that is also the script is written by Robert Holmes, who's sort of the best Doctor Who writer ever.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous episode of Doctor Who. I think the cinematography is good.
Yeah.
It's famed as the only episode of Doctor Who that was shot on 35mm. Mm-hmm. So it's actually the only classic episode that you can get on Blu-ray, and it's the only one they'll ever be able to put out that way.
Yeah.
They could stick them on a Blu-ray disc. There would be absolutely no purpose to that. The rest of them are mastered at what they're mastered at. But Spirit from Space looks good. I watched on Netflix, and it looked really nice. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So what are because this is the first time you've seen it, because I've seen this is the third or fourth time I've seen it. So what are your thoughts, Jonathan?
It's interesting. I think I absolutely like what you said about it being an introduction to the era, because that's something I think when we get to the 11th Hour, that I think that's something the 11th Hour takes from it too, is this idea of we're not just seeding the new Doctor or some of the new characters, but we're really setting a tone. Mm-hmm. And it sets a good tone. And I've seen a couple of other Third Doctor stories. I've probably seen more Third Doctor stories than I have any other classic Doctor. Well, I've seen a lot of Second Doctor, so maybe more Second Doctor. But I really love the Third Doctor, and I kind of am familiar with this setting, and it was interesting to see how they set it up. And, you know, there's things about this setting I like. Like, you know, I love the Brigadier as a character.
The Brigadier's so fucking good.
And I love seeing how he's introduced in this context where he is going to be a main character, clearly. And, you know, one of the things I've always thought about the Brigadier that was really clear to me in this episode is that he is like if you made an actual TV character out of the General from Monty Python.
Sure.
The guy who's just nope, too funny. Because except with more of a sense of humor, because he just kind of takes things in stride. And that's what makes him great at his job, because he has to deal with all this fucking alien shit, but he's able to keep this stiff upper lip about it.
Yeah.
And it's great, and I just love all his interactions with, you know, John Pertwee, who he, for, you know, good reasons, does not believe is the Doctor for a while.
Yeah.
He doesn't get it, and, you know, but it's not, it's a totally different reaction than any other companion to a new Doctor.
Yeah.
Because with every other one, it's like, you know, like Rose in the Christmas Invasion is like, oh no, the Doctor's abandoned me. It's really stupid. And with other, companions who carry over, like Perry in the Twin Dilemma, it's, I mean, I feel bad for Perry because she does get strangled, but it's, you know,
I don't. God, she's such an annoying. I forgot just how annoying Perry is until I rewatched that.
Anyway, so you know, companions usually are like, for some reason, kind of mad at the Doctor.
Yeah, they're usually really resistant to the change. Yeah.
But the Brigadier is just because he, you know, this is like the 10th least strange thing he's seen today.
Yeah.
So fuck it, he just takes it in stride.
Yeah, Brigadier takes everything in stride. He doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts about his character. It's just like, yeah, fuck it. They're aliens. I mean, one of the really interesting things about this episode is that it opens up, and it almost opens up in like the exact same way that the first episode of The X-Files opens up, which is you have Liz Shaw is interviewing for this position, and then she's like, in The X-Files, obviously Scully is going to be put into The X-Files and the FBI, and so that's kind of like this very similar interview thing, except for in Spearhead from Space, it's like the Brigadier is almost like Mulder in a weird way of like, he's like trying to convince her, no, there's crazy shit going on, and he's like this general dude, you know, like he is the most fucking straight-faced, normal, upstanding British military officer you could possibly ever meet, and he's the one being like, no, there's like crazy alien shit going on, like what? And she's all like, no, I believe in science. It's like, no, alien shit, lady.
Yeah, and
it's great.
That is something I think Doctor Who, often over the course of its life, has done well, is having characters who just treat things pragmatically.
Yeah.
But it's true, I mean, if you were going to have someone who was... If there really were aliens, and there really were a unit that had to take care of them, you'd have to have a guy like the Brigadier, because if you had someone who got freaked out by this shit, they'd be bad at their job.
Yeah.
He just treats it like he would any other military operation.
Exactly. It's just like... Well, okay, I don't understand anything of us going on, but I know the Doctor gets it, and I'm just going to go over there and shoot that thing.
Yeah.
Because it probably gets hurt if you shoot it. Hopefully.
But then, I mean, and you're right about just sort of the balance is good in this episode, where you know, Liz Shaw and the Brigadier are our POV characters, but it introduces us to the Third Doctor in such a great way. And honestly, one of the big surprises for me is that, you know, I love the Third Doctor, but I think of him as one of the more serious Doctors of the classic era, especially coming off Patrick Troughton, who's a very funny Doctor, you know, very emotional, energetic in all these different ways. I always think of him at the beginning of, I think it's The Enemy of the World, running out on the beach and doing circles.
Yeah.
Like, that's Patrick Troughton to me as the Doctor, and I love it. But, you know, John Pertwee's a little more serious. His introduction is fucking hilarious. Yeah. All of it, where he's... You know, he's in a coma, and then he's
trying to get his shoes, and it's like the Doctor takes his shoes out, and he just like grabs them and flips over and hugs them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that stuff's great, and really, I mean, you get this very playful sense from him throughout, but also this playfulness with when the chips are down, he's also serious, and he can help you, and he can figure it out. And I love that it took them one serial to get into that great Third Doctor trope of he's going to MacGyver something at the end and create a magical invention, and it's going to save the day.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And then I love the look on his face when the invention doesn't work on the Nestine consciousness. Yeah. And he's just like, well, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, John Pertwee's just so good. Like, yeah, and he immediately nails it. Like, like he just... Second one of him on screen Like, he understands what he's trying to do with the character of the Doctor. Where, like, he does have funny moments, but he is a much more serious version of the Doctor. And he's, like... I also love that it's the beginning of this whole, like, sort of running thing for most of the Third Doctor era of him... Because, you know, he's been confined on Earth, basically, by the Time Lords. And so this is that great scene where he tricks Liz Shaw to get the key, and he goes in, and he's about to take off, but then the TARDIS can't take off because the Time Lords have messed with it. He just opens the door, and all this smoke pops out.
That's a great scene. Here's my question.
Yeah.
If that had worked and he'd been able to zap away, would he have come back and helped them? Or would he had just... No? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Humanity might have just gone extinct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I love that it's... He's kind of forced into caring about these people because he has nothing better to do.
Yeah, but it's like one of the things where it's like with John Pertwee's version of the Doctor, you kind of have to dig into him a little bit more to get that more like childish, lighthearted side of the character. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite instances of it. Is it's just like he just wants to get away. He just wants to go have fun, but he can't because the Time Lords have constricted him here, so he has to be all businesslike all the time.
And, you know, it's just from a story perspective, he is the perfect actor for this Doctor in this time.
Yeah.
Because he can play that, because that frustration of being stuck on Earth is so sublimated into everything he does.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me. And I mean, just every step of his introduction is so good, where really it's basically over the course of the first 2 episodes of this serial that he comes into his own as, like, the Doctor.
Yeah.
And the next 2 are kind of the story, moreover. And, you know, I think it's in that second episode that he gets his costume, for instance. And it's a great scene of him getting his costume, where he has to be kind of, you know, quiet, and he's sneaking around, and he has to steal all his clothes, and then he has to steal the car. Is this Bessie yet, or does Bessie come later?
Bessie comes later. Like, cause he says at the end of the episode that he wants that car, but the Brigadier's like, no, that's not your car.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, you have to get me a car like it, and then that's where Bessie comes in.
All right, so this is like the Bessie prototype.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't know the Third Doctor has a car, he calls it Bessie. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
just wonderful.
Ridiculous.
And all the scenes of the Doctor trying to figure out how to drive. That's what I love, is that he doesn't even know how to drive, but he wants the car.
Yeah, but I love that he like. But it's a cool scene where he figures out how to drive really quickly. Yeah. Like, he just hops into the car and he just messes with all these levers and, like, moves the wheel a bit. And he goes forward on accident once. He's like, oh, okay. And then he goes in reverse and he can drive. Yeah. Seems like very much what the Doctor would be able to do is just like, here's this really primitive machine. I can figure it out in, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, and then here's the other character we haven't talked about yet is Liz Shaw. Yeah. I have not seen a Liz Shaw episode before.
Oh, right, yeah, because she's only in the first season of the Doctor stuff.
And, you know, I don't quite know what to make of her after this serial. I like how she works within here, but what are your opinions on Liz Shaw's companion?
I really like Liz Shaw. Like, I wish they had kept her around longer, because she kind of broke the mold for most, especially, like, the female companion archetypes, in that she is, like, very capable. You know, she is a scientist. She's being hired at the beginning of the episode. She's being hired by UNIT because she's this incredibly capable scientist who has a vast amount of experience in a wide range of fields, which is exactly what UNIT needs. And so she is able to sort of like, you know, she's not as smart as the Doctor because she doesn't know like time travel bullshit and all that nonsense, but she is able to approach the Doctor on a scientific level, and they work together as scientists. And so she is much more his assistant and not his companion, because in this era, that is when they were called assistants and not companions. And yeah, I really like Liz just because it's like she's a different kind of companion. And then, you know, Jo Grant comes in, and Jo is good, but she's much more a sort of like stereotypical Doctor Who companion type.
I will say, in the Jo Grant episode or episodes I've seen, she made a stronger impression on me at first, but I think that's because Jo Grant in the Three Doctors has my favorite Doctor Who joke of all time.
She's very funny.
With the it's he is me and me is he, and she's and we are all together. Goo goo choo. It's the Beatles. That's my favorite Doctor Who joke. And Jo Grant got to deliver that, so that's great.
No, she's a very funny. Like, Jo Grant is a really good character, and she's very funny. But yeah, Liz Shaw's interesting.
No, Liz Shaw's interesting. What I like about Liz Shaw in this story is the specific evolution of her relationship with the Doctor. Yeah. Where it starts, and she is like kind of his foil, where she's
his Scully. Yeah. She is exactly Scully for like the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, where she is very much, you know, playing off his ridiculousness. Yeah. And not taking any guff. Mm-hmm. And then when, you know, I think the Doctor sizes her up and realizes who she is, and he becomes more serious, they become these great partners.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, and I like that they like form this partnership kind of against the Brigadier, and that the Brigadier's trying to be all like formal and military. He's like, no, let's just sneak in there and use my crazy science bullshit to win the day.
It's great. So she is clearly she's one of those companions who's very much up to the Doctor's level.
Yeah.
Where he recognizes something in her because he sees something of himself in her.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you say, we often get companions where it's if he sees anything in them, it's more emotional.
Yeah, and usually the companion's role is just to be there to the Doctor can explain shit to them. Like that's sort of like the lazy writer's use of companions. And with Liz Shaw, and I think this is probably why they got rid of her. You couldn't really do that well with Liz Shaw. Like, she's too smart of a character that you can't have that scene because it just feels awkward.
Right, but definitely interesting. I think the 4 episodes are well arced. I thought the third one felt a little slow to me, but it's just going to happen in a Doctor Who serial.
Yeah.
So. But other than that, I mean, definitely, like, the first 2 are just a blast.
Yeah.
And then the 4th has a really good payoff. I like the last scene where it's everyone just kind of decide. No one's really even happy about it, but it's just like, we've got to work together, so let's do it, guys.
Yeah, it's like, I can't leave. I need a place to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. I might as well save the Earth every other week while I'm here.
Every other week. Pretty much every week, right?
Well, that's like breaks on the seasons.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'm going to say every other week.
Okay. That's true. I think serials at this time aired over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. What else to say about Spearhead from Space? The Autons as villains.
Yeah, the Autons. Yeah, this is the first introduction of the Autons. Yeah.
How much would they be used? I know they were used in the next season premiere.
Yeah, so they were using Terror of the Autons. I think that might be the only other time. There's an episode called Android Invasion that has Auton-like things, but they are not Autons. Okay.
And, of course, really interestingly, when Russell T Davies brought back Doctor Who, he chose the Autons as the first villain for the Ninth Doctor. And they're an effective villain to introduce the Doctor because they're not the biggest challenge in the world, but they're big enough to kind of build an introduction episode around.
Yeah, and I've always been a huge fan of the Autons. Just like they're a nice, creepy kind of villain. Like it's a very Stephen Moffat kind of villain in that it's just like this subtly creepy thing because they're basically they're just walking store mannequins. Store mannequins are fucking creepy, man. Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised Stephen Moffat has not done an Auton episode. Yeah. I have to imagine a lot of his inspiration comes from this story and other ones like it. Yeah, because the 11th Hour clearly takes a lot from this. I mean, like, the scene where the Doctor's getting his clothes in the hospital, that's exactly the same. He's stealing his clothes from a doctor's room in the hospital. Like, it's the exact same scene, basically. Yes. So it's very interesting. Yeah, the Autons are fucking cool. Yeah. And I think they just, like I said before, they're just a cool design in this episode. Like, I know the Autons from the Christopher Eccleston episode, where I thought they looked neat. And, 50 years earlier, they looked really cool here, too. Mm-hmm. They're definitely the kind of villain, you can work with it. Whatever limitations you have, you can make the Autons look good, it feels like. Yeah. And then also, like, the actors, like, particularly, like, the main villain dude who's sort of, like, the controlling the Auton. Like, he's really cheesy. He's the perfect cheesy. He's got such a great face for, like, some weird plastic dude who's, like, taking over people's minds. Yeah. He's a creepy-looking motherfucker. Yeah. So especially when he's just sort of, like, stalking around the hospital looking weird and awkward, you're like, what the fuck is with that dude? Like, he's a guy who he's not, like, very charismatic, but as soon as you see him on screen, it's like, that guy must be, like, the villain or something. Like, there's something going on with this dude. Yeah. So, one other thought I was thinking of just now is that, I think there are certain Doctor Who serials that are not so good, like Twin Dilemma, where you wonder if, like, just a different person wrote every episode and didn't consult with anyone else. Mm-hmm. Spearhead from Space, and this is probably true of every Robert Holmes story, certainly the ones I've seen, it feels like he fucking sat down and wrote the whole goddamn thing before he cut it up or anything. Because, you could string these 4 together and you might not even know where the gaps are. It's just, it feels like one story that was pre-planned, that was thought out. I thought the 3rd episode was a little slow, but I still think as an overall pace, it feels like a story that knew where it was going and what it wanted to be. And, that's important in this serialized format, where they have, a story that goes over many episodes. Yeah, like Robert Holmes was always the writer who was, like, the most capable at grabbing that, because that was the biggest flaw. It's something that's very apparent in Twin Dilemma. Easily Twin Dilemma's biggest flaw to me is that a lot of Doctor Who serials become really unfocused across episodes, because it does feel almost kind of piecemeal, that it's like the story's building itself through these episodes instead of, like, it is one story that has several parts. You know? I mean, I think of, like, Talents of Wang Chiang, which is a Robert Holmes story that you've shown me, the 4th Doctor one, and that is, that's a mystery story. Yeah, it's practically like a movie. Yeah, it is. Like, it's just like, you almost... And that's 6 episodes. That's even more impressive as a feat of writing. Yeah. So, very cool. Was this Robert Holmes' first episode? When did he join the series? No, I think Crotons was his first one. He definitely wrote at least Crotons, which is a 2nd Doctor story. Okay. This might be his second one or his third one.
But I know this is like beginning the era of
this
his
is
kind
very
of
much
dominance.
this is one of his first stories.
Yeah. And how long? I mean, what was the last episode he did?
He did the 2 Doctors and the 6th Doctor. Or he did like part of that, and he wrote part of the beginning of the Mysterious Planet, which is the first story in the Trial of the Time Lord.
Okay,
that was like I don't think he fully wrote those scripts, but he was involved.
So his last like significant story though was Androzani, right?
Yeah, I would say so. That's his last like full script on his own.
Yeah. Okay. And happens also to be one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
So definitely great writer.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you're one of those writers who think Stephen Moffat was like the first genius writer on Doctor Who, go back and just watch some Robert Holmes stories. They hold up.
They're so good. Especially his 4th Doctor stuff is just unbelievable.
Yeah. I just, whenever I see one of his episodes, it's, sometimes you have to put yourself in a different mindset to watch classic Who, even the good stuff. With his stuff, you have to do a little bit of that sometimes just because of the pace, because it is a different format than TV is made in today. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, there's some of them just like, again, you start watching Spearhead from Space, you're like, this is Doctor Who.
Yeah, I had to, when I started watching the Twin Dilemma, I had to put myself in this, like, okay, it's classic Doctor Who, like, I had to put myself in that mindset. And then it's like, when a day later I started watching Spearhead from Space, I was like, I can just watch this. Like, I don't have to, like, it just grabs you immediately from the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good stuff. Anything else you want to say about this one?
It's just so fucking good, man.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
And this is, if you're listening to this without having watched this episode, it's on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime. You can buy it on
widely available.
Yeah. It is one of the more widely available ones. And honestly, here's probably the nicest thing I can say about this episode is that it finished and I wanted to watch the next one. And, I didn't because I couldn't easily get to the Silurians episode, which is the next one.
It's pretty good.
But I wanted to just follow it up.
Doctor Who and the Silurians. It's such a weird episode, like, serial name. It's the only one that has, like, Doctor Who and the... It's like, I don't know who wrote that one, but it just seems like it was someone who had no idea what Doctor Who was. It's like, I'll just call this Doctor Who and the Silurians, like it's Indiana Jones or something.
Well, isn't that what they made those, like, Doctor Who movies with the guy from Star Wars?
Yeah, Peter Cushing.
Yeah. And weren't those called like Doctor Who and the Things or something?
I think they were. I think Doctor Who and the Daleks is the name of the first one, and I think the second one is just called like Daleks something. Okay. Like Daleks, some like date for Dalek invasion of Earth.
It's always weird to me that those movies exist.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So really, Peter Capaldi is like the 15th Doctor.
Okay.
If we put that somehow that works.
12. It's easier.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Or if you want to, just Doctor. All right. Well, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Abrupt shift, if you will. The Twin Dilemma. Well, this was not a season premiere. This is an interesting thing.
Yeah, I always forget this.
Yeah, so Caves of Androzani, which is, we've talked about it several times before, widely recognized as one of the best Doctor episodes ever, or one of the Doctor Who episodes ever, certainly one of the best regeneration stories. Yeah. It's the last 5th Doctor story, but it was the penultimate episode or serial of that season.
Yeah.
And then the finale was Twin Dilemma. And I want to start here because Caves of Androzani has phenomenal production values.
Yeah, it does.
For Doctor Who at the time. The production design is beautiful. It's got location shooting. It's great. Did they just spend all their money on it and then Twin Dilemma had none? Because
they must have.
It's not just that Twin Dilemma has 0 production values. Yeah. I mean, I have seen YouTube videos made by 5-year-olds that look better than this shit.
But also, watching YouTube videos made by 5-year-olds?
I have not watched YouTube videos by 5-year-olds. I'm just exaggerating.
Sure you haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, now you're just trying to build yourself up with your weird 5-year-old YouTube friends.
Okay, shut up. Anyway, but yeah, so it's not just that, but the style of this episode is just different. Like the way it's shot and some of the musical choices, I don't know. It's just, how is this made like the next week? I don't get it.
You got me, dude. I don't fucking get it either. Like, and imagine you're a huge Doctor Who fan watching it as it airs at the time. So you get Caves of Androzani, it's like, oh my god, that was incredible. And then it's like, then you get the Twin Dilemma over like the next 4 weeks. It's like, what the fuck? And then you don't get any more Doctor Who for like a year.
Yeah. And here's my question.
What?
I know. This is my question to you, Sean, though.
Yeah.
Is that, so when you watched this, I assume you watched Caves of Androzani and then went right into Twin Dilemma.
Yeah.
So you saw it similar to how it would have aired.
Sure, yeah.
In that way.
Yeah, I guess technically.
So that was your experience with it, was going from this great episode to terrible episode.
Yes.
And I wonder if that colors it for you, because I watched this, not that way, obviously. I just watched it I watched it last night, and I haven't seen Androzani in a long time, and I was just watching it on its own, on an island, basically.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking of the context it aired in, and that made me laugh a little bit. But I did not hate this episode. I will say that up front. I don't know if I can say I liked it in any way, but I was prepared to be like, this was going to be excruciating. It was decidedly not excruciating to me for the most part. And I have some...
Oh, no, I thought it was excruciating the second time through. I mean, it has... We talked about this a little bit before the podcast. It has good stuff in it. I always thought it had good stuff in it. I've always liked Colin Baker. I think Colin Baker's stuff in this episode is pretty good. And there are a couple of good scenes, like, on their own that are legitimately good. But as a whole serial, I find it almost unbearable in how unfocused and just nonsensical it is.
It is. I mean,
even for Doctor Who. Like, it takes all the, like... stereotypical bad things about old Doctor Who and just dials it up to like 11 to a point where it's like I can't even stand it.
Okay, and I think, yeah, it's complex to say what my thoughts on this were because I didn't like it. I recognize 100% it is a bad serial. I'm not going to argue and say this is good. What I will say though is that the ways in which it were bad I found very interesting.
Sure,
pretty consistently. I found it fascinating. Like my biggest problem with it, and it just. Again, it didn't cause me pain. I just found it amusing and funny because I guess I'm removed enough from it, you know, is that every episode it feels like it's from a completely different serial.
Yeah.
They just, like, they set up, like, I actually thought the first episode of Twin Dilemma, while really awkward and poorly done in a lot of ways, set up a couple of interesting things, and they never come up again.
Yeah.
Like, they do the whole thing where the Doctor strangles Perry, and that's fucking extreme, and it's not a good way to introduce your Doctor.
Yeah.
But... they also set it up pretty clearly as this is more than just post-regenerative disorder.
Yeah.
Something's going on. Mm-hmm. And the Doctor is going to go try to figure out what's going on. And I'm interested in that.
And they have one of my, I think, the best line, like, the best, like, dialogue sequence of the whole serial is when he's deciding he's going to go...
be a hermit.
Become a hermit.
I love that.
His disciple, and then they have to like go in a cave and suffer together. And Perry's like, "Why do I have to be made to suffer? Because you've been chosen, my child."
Yes, I love all of that.
Yeah,
I think the whole plot setup if he's going to go become a hermit is really cool. They don't even mention it again.
Yeah.
They're just done with it after episode 1. Like it's just they wash it away as this is just post-regenerative disorder stuff. It's like, well, fuck. Then how is the Doctor not like blown up a galaxy so far when he post-regenerates? It's just. It's that stuff is annoying. I mean, you also start with episode 1. I mean, this is another annoying thing is that the Doctor does not get involved in the plot until like the end of episode 3.
Yeah,
and so
it's just because it takes because they're like intercutting between the Romulus and Remus stuff, which are like these two twins who are really good at math and they're being kidnapped for reasons that are just impossible to explain.
Yeah.
And again, I watched this last night, like, because
me too, yes.
I just held it off for as long as possible. I was like, okay, I have to fucking watch this thing. So I just watched it. I don't know what the fuck they kidnapped Romulus and Remus for. I don't know. But they kidnapped them to, like, for some plot reasons. And so that slowly develops itself along these, like, scenes. And they're intercutting that with the Doctor on the TARDIS with Perry, and he's on the TARDIS for like almost 2 full episodes. Like he's on it for all of the first episode and almost all of the second episode. I think it's like halfway through episode 2.
He is actually on it for all of the second episode because the cliffhanger is the place blowing up with him in it. Oh no, that would be
that's when he's left the TARDIS. So it's it's at the end of the second episode as they leave the TARDIS to go to the thing that looks like the thing from Prometheus.
Okay.
And then then it blows up and they have like the worst cliffhanger because Perry's like, No,
Sean, the worst cliffhanger is episode 3 where she says Perry might have to die and he goes, Perry!
No, dude, the face that Nicola Bryant makes at the end of episode 2 is unbelievable. Like it's just like, no, oh no. Like she just makes this unbelievably like exaggerated, stupid fucking like she looks like going back to your weird fetish for 5-year-olds. She looks like a 5-year-old.
Fuck you.
She looks like a 5-year-old trying to act like making this super exaggerated face into the camera and like, what the fuck? But you're right. The one in episode 3 where Colin Baker just looks into the camera and goes, Perry! Is also really bad.
It's not even a cliffhanger because they just say she might have to die. Who's he yelling to? Who's he yelling at?
He's yelling to us, Jonathan. Okay. He's yelling to the fates themselves.
Okay. But Perry! Going back to like the plot.
No.
So going back to the plot progression.
Right, yeah.
So we start with, like, the first episode seems like it's going to be all about these twins. Like, they have mystical powers or something.
Yeah,
we're not sure.
named Romulus and Remus for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you pick these, like, two names from Roman mythology if you're not going to make it thematically significant, but...
Like, so we start with them, and they apparently have some mystical powers, and they keep...
No, they're really good at math. There's no mystical powers. No, they're just really good at math.
I get that, but in the first episode, they don't make that clear.
Okay.
It seems like they're very smart, but that smartness could be something else. Like, it seems like they are special in some way.
I just want to make this clear. They, like, so people know, Romulus and Remus are basically like twin British Wesley Crushers.
Okay.
That's basically just what they are. Like,
that, Sean, just so you know, that is the most terrifying sentence in the English language to me.
I know, right? Twin dilemma is pretty fucking bad, right? The twin dilemma is, how do you make that? How is that possible?
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this first episode...
so fucking awful.
The first episode, what I assume the story would be is it's going to be something related to the twins and whatever their powers are.
Yeah, because the whole, like, other half of the first episode that's not the Doctor is the twins. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then... in the second episode, they're kind of phased out a little bit, and the third, they're phased out some more, and the fourth, they're barely in it. Like the twins
just completely irrelevant.
Yeah, so the twins are kind of the first episode is sort of twin heavy, and then after that, they're just kind of they're standing around like they're not important.
Yeah, that's the true twin dilemma. Is how do you name your thing the twin dilemma and have two twins in it that at first seem really important, and then ultimately make them completely insignificant to the plot at the end. Yeah. That's an incredible dilemma that they somehow figured out.
I mean, and I know you're going to go on a rant about how bad the acting is, but they just
so bad.
They're so barely in it, and they have so little to do or talk about. It's just, to me, it wasn't bad. It was just these two kids sitting there reading lines. It didn't cause me pain. It was just like they're nothing. They're not characters. They don't even count as scenery. They're just kind of there.
And that's what makes it so. Like, that's the whole thing about this episode. It's just like it's this empty serial. It has no plot. It has no idea what it's doing. Like, it's almost like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of Doctor Who serials. It's just like, it just moves through these, like, plot points that aren't really satisfactorily connected to each other.
I will say...
it just kind of, the whole thing just sort of happens, and it feels empty and lifeless.
I will say, I would happily watch the Twin Dilemma again before I would watch the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Me too. Because at least with the Twin Dilemma, like, I just, like, phased out halfway through episode 2.
Me too.
And was, like, barely even watching it.
I was, like...
It's the only way I could stand it.
I was pretty much playing 3DS while I watched a lot of it.
Yeah, and so that's why you were able to, like, get through it. When the first time I watched the Twin Dilemma, like, I was like, I have to watch Doctor Who. Like, I'm watching all of them together. I can't just space out for this story, because then what's the point of me even watching all of them if I'm not going to pay attention to it?
Right.
So I had to so I actually watched it the first time.
I understand.
I didn't just sit there and barely look at it while I was actually playing guitar.
Well, and I should say, I watched the first episode pretty intently, the second episode pretty intently. It was the third and fourth where I had to be doing something else.
That's where I also was just like, I can't do this. I can't just watch this. I can't occupy my... Like, I should just be listening to a podcast and not even listening to the fucking dialogue on screen. Because it made as much sense.
Yeah.
It's fucking... Even if you do just watch it straight up, it's still basically incomprehensible.
Yeah. So, oh boy, there are so many things to talk about here, though. I mean, it really is... And I will say, it's... That fourth episode is where it totally lost me, because the story is just gibberish. Nothing makes sense. Yeah. They keep changing. Somewhere, that guy who was the Doctor's friend turns out to be a Time Lord, and then the Doctor's really sad when he dies. I don't know how he dies or what happened. I don't know the significance of that.
So, I'm going to explain it as well as I can.
Okay.
I've seen it twice. I've more experience it with you than you. So,
but you agree it's pretty incomprehensible.
Oh, yeah. It is fucking nonsense. It is pure nonsense. So, this is as far as I understand, and some of this might be wrong. But, okay. There is a planet, and on that planet, there was a Time Lord dude who's named like Asmodan or something, I don't know. And he was the Doctor's friend.
So it's Asmodan? Like he's Dan and he's got asthma? Asmodan? Okay. That's what it sounded like you said.
That is the worst. Asmodan is like it's a devil in like Christian Jewish mythology.
I was thinking of Asthma Dan. Okay.
Dude, that's just the worst joke.
That's not a joke. I just thought that's what you said.
No.
Right,
okay, I think the guy's actual name is Asmael. Anyways, ignoring Jonathan's nonsense. So on this planet that's named some stupid name, there's a Time Lord named Asmael who at one point was the Doctor's friend, and then they had sex in the fountain. I don't know. There's something about a fountain.
Wait, who had sex in the fountain? The Doctor?
The Doctor. No, they didn't actually have sex in the fountain, but they had this weird scene where the Doctor's like, "Remember that time at the fountain?"
Oh yeah,
and it was like, What the fuck did you do at the fountain? What? Like, why are you having this really a romantic moment with this, like, decrepit old man?
It was college, they were experimenting.
Exactly, like, that's basically what it sounded like. So Asmael, and I think he rules this one planet of, like, blue people with mustaches.
Okay.
Because there's a race of blue people with mustaches. And so I think he rules them. He has some relationship to this planet. I don't really know what, because it feels like they only vaguely allude to it, and it feels like they change what they're alluding to every single time they allude to it. But he's there, and on this planet they had a myth about a race of giant gastropods with googly eyes. The googly eyes is my addition, because you find out the giant gastropod people have googly eyes, because he fucking does. It's like the worst makeup ever. But they had a myth about giant gastropods with googly eyes, and then lo and behold, one day, a giant gastropod with googly eyes appears, as if from nowhere, and he has super mind powers. He's basically invincible, and he takes over the race of blue people with mustaches, and then he forces Asmael to work for him. Now, this gastropod with googly eyes man, who I can't remember what his name is, but he's the main villain eventually.
Okay.
He has a giant underground warehouse full of eggs of other gastropods with googly eyes. But gastropods with googly eyes are only born under such extreme heat that you need to blow up the sun in order to have them to hatch. Now, don't ask me then how the gastropod with googly eyes man that's the villain was born in the first place. How such a race could possibly even exist, and how such a race would exist on this one planet where the myth came from. None of that's explained. I don't know. But he has a warehouse full of eggs with babies for gastropod with googly eyes. So he needs to blow up the sun to generate the heat for them to be born. But then also his secret plan to take over the universe is that if the sun blows up, it will expel them through space with such extreme force that they will eventually land on some planet and take over the universe. Now that plan is extremely impractical for a number of reasons. First, space is really fucking big, so I don't care if you're getting launched by an exploding sun, the chances of you landing on another planet that are habitable of your species are basically nothing. So he's basically just going to kill his entire species, because he's going to die when the sun blows up, because he's on the planet that's right by the fucking sun. He's a fucking idiot. But he needs to find out how to get the sun to blow up, right? So, well, obviously the best way to do that is then to find some way to get two planets that are further out in your solar system close enough to the sun that they will then collide into the sun, and that will cause the sun to blow up. That would not cause the sun to blow up. That would not in any way cause the sun to blow up, because stars are fucking huge, and planets are not that big, especially if planets are made out of, like, rocky matter, which these ones are. So that would in no way work, but that's what he needs to do. Now, how do you do that, Jonathan? With the power of math. But unfortunately, blue people with mustaches cannot do calculus. So, you need to go to this other, like, humans, because I think they're humans.
That's one of the things I want to talk about. In the first episode, those twins are clearly aliens, and then later they say
no, they are humans, Jonathan. I know that they make it obvious that they are aliens in the first episode, but they're definitely fucking humans, because everyone else is human that looks human, and they directly say that. They, like, even address Earth itself.
I know they do later, but not at the beginning.
So, you would have to go to Earth and get two human children named after Romulus and Remus, because their dad is a huge fan of Rome. I don't know. And you have to kidnap these children because they're really fucking good at math. Like, they are really, really fucking good at math, okay? So you get Asmael to teleport there through, I don't know how. He just teleports there. And then he puts green circles on Romulus and Remus's hands so that Romulus and Remus, a.k.a. Wesley Crusher A and Wesley Crusher B, are under his control and lose their memories but retain their ability to do complex mathematics, like really complex mathematics. And so he then takes them and basically brainwashes them, and he teleports back to the dome from Prometheus, okay? And then at the dome from Prometheus, they just spend an entire episode there because they can't go to the gastropod with googly eyes, because then the serial would end too quickly because the doctor would just be there, because they need to encounter the doctor first, okay? So then, this is where the doctor comes in. Now the doctor arrives, and he's like, "Hey, Asmael, my old friend who by the fountain guy, what's up with you and this, like, these two people who are blue and have mustaches?" And it's like, "Oh, it's all crazy shit. It's like, what's with these twins? Oh, and there's also a human when the twins got kidnapped who he went after the twins, and he was like a starfighter dude, and he had a whole fleet, but the whole fleet was destroyed through unexplained means. And so he lands on the planet, and the doctor takes him into the TARDIS, but he's completely useless. Like, I don't even know why that character existed, because he does almost nothing. Like, he shoots two guys.
This guy. I forgot who you were talking about.
Yeah. So that guy, he's there. Okay, and let me back up. Let me explain something else about this guy, who's completely useless to the plot, so I don't need to explain this at all. But he wakes up and almost shoots the doctor because he's delirious, and so the doctor's like, I don't want to help this dude because he almost shot me. And then Perry's like, no, you have to help this dude. You're the doctor. That's what you do. And he's like, okay, fine, but take the power pack out of his gun and hide it somewhere, and then I'll help this dude. So they do that. So then later, Perry and the doctor leave the TARDIS, but they leave that dude there unconscious because they clearly actually don't give that much of a shit about helping that dude out. So then that guy wakes up, and he's like, oh my god, my gun, but there's no power pack. So he searches around the TARDIS for the power pack, and so he just happens, again, this is the TARDIS, so it is infinitely big. He happens to just wander into the clothing room, where Perry just so happened to hide the power pack in the clothing room in this pocket of a specific piece of clothes. So he wanders into the clothing room, and he just happens to put on, for no reason, his clothes are basically fine. They're a little dusty, but he does not need to change clothes. He just wanders into the clothing room, just happens to change into the exact outfit that in that pair of pants is the power pack to his gun. He just does it. There's no indication that it's like he has a detector to find out where it is. He just puts it on, and so he spends the entire episode wearing like silver, flashy, stupid fucking space clothes that look awful for no reason whatsoever, just to get his power pack, again, for no reason whatsoever, because this character's not even important, but again, the only thing he does is shoot, like, two dudes later on that you don't really even need to have those characters there, so he doesn't need to exist to shoot them in the first place, but he needs his power pack to do that, so you probably didn't even really need to take his power pack in the first place, and so you just wasted 5 minutes of my time watching this asshole walk around the TARDIS control room, and then going into the fucking dressing room and changing his clothes, and it's fucking stupid. So that happens. Okay, then Asmail and the people with blue mustaches are going to lock the doctor in the room and just leave. But one of the blue person with a mustache, he sets a self-destruct device without telling anybody. So then they leave, and so the doctor's like, okay, I can figure out how to get out of this place because Asmail's didn't like set up this thing that's like it'll be hard to get out, but not impossible. And then Perry's like, hey, doctor, this thing's gonna blow up. So then the doctor in the dome from Prometheus rigs up a device to send Perry 10 minutes back in time, or like I think it's only like 10 seconds back in time.
He says 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds back in time. But somehow that also teleports her to the TARDIS, which is what makes no sense. Like it should have been like 10 minutes or something to teleport her back in time when she was still in the TARDIS. But none of it makes any sense. So he does that in 10 seconds back in time. But he's like, "Here, Perry, you need to give me my watch or your watch because."
Technobabble.
Because for some reason, if I then use this device to send me 10 seconds back in time, but actually just teleport me to the TARDIS, because that's what we're doing, I don't know why we're teleporting in time, because clearly somehow it's teleporting us to the TARDIS. Like, I need your watch, because when I do that, instead of you doing it, somehow it will just completely fuck up for no reason. So, I need you to do that. And so she's like, okay. She gives him her watch, and then she teleports there, and because the doctor teleports her 10 seconds back in time, which also somehow teleports her to the TARDIS. And then she's there, and she's like, oh, wait, doctor, where are you? And then the thing blows up, and then she goes, no, makes a face into the camera. But then what you actually find out at the beginning of the next episode is that the watch stopped, unfortunately, which is a really big coincidence. I don't know why Perry's carrying around a stopped watch all the time, but her watch stopped. So the doctor didn't know exactly when to teleport. But, so he teleports anyways. He's just like, I don't know when I need to teleport because his watch stopped. I didn't know that there had to be some timing for it, but there does. So then he teleports into the TARDIS. But he teleports like 15 seconds back in time, so he's out of sync with them. So he pushes a button on the TARDIS, and then he's in sync with them again. And it's a completely useless cliffhanger that made no sense, did not need to exist whatsoever, and clearly was only there because they got to the end of the episode and they realized we need to have Nicola Bryant make a stupid face at the camera at the end of this episode, so we need to come up with some justification for doing it. Hey, here's a stopped watch. Let's just use this. So then that happens. So then the doctor goes to the planet of the slugs with googly eyes, or where the guy with the googly eyes, he's there. He's the villain. He goes there. That dude's taken over everything.
Wait, are the slugs with googly eyes different from the blue people with mustaches?
Yes, the blue people with mustaches are the natural inhabitants of the planet, I think. But they have been taken over by slug man with googly eyes. So, you go to the planet of the slug guys with googly eyes.
Aren't the blue guys with mustaches working for the slug with the...
No, he has mind powers, Jonathan. He's taking them over.
I did not get this.
They are in no way at fault. Okay. So they go to that planet because Asmael has taken the twins there. Because, again, the twins are really good at math. And so while Asmael is there with the twins that are really good with math, he's forcing the twins that are really good with math to do a calculation. And then planets, the two planets that are further away in their orbit, will come in and be in the same orbital track as the planet that they're on. But Jonathan, I know you're thinking that makes no sense because then all the orbits would just go crazy and everything would be fucked up. Exactly. That's why they're going to make a calculation.
Okay.
And then those planets are going to be out of sync in time. So one of them's going to be like 1 day ahead, and one of them's going to be 1 day behind in the timeline. And Jonathan, you're probably thinking...
Did they actually say any of this in the episode itself?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
But you're also probably thinking... What does that mean?
Right.
How does that do anything? Why are you doing any of this? Asmael, what do you think Slugman with Googly Eyes is trying to do? Because you clearly think that if you do this, Slugman with Googly Eyes is just going to be like, okay, that's it. I'm fine. You can have your planet back, Asmael, because you're a really good dude. Thank you for doing this completely nonsensical thing with calculations and math. And is like... I don't know why Asmael thinks that everything's going to work out fine if he does this, but he clearly thinks that. And it only takes the doctor, who then shows up, and he walks in there, and he's like, hey, that's probably just going to be really bad shit. And then Asmael's like, no, it's not, Doctor, you crazy. And then the doctor's like, no, Asmael, because those two planets are smaller planets. So even if they're out of sync in time and not fucking up our planet's orbit, which again... Wouldn't that just fuck up your planet's orbit tomorrow if it's out of sync with your time tomorrow? I don't know, Jonathan. But they're smaller planets. And what does that mean if a smaller planet is drawn closer to the primary gravitational source of the solar system? That is right, Jonathan. It means their orbit will decay and they will fall into the sun. And that will destroy those planets. And will no way cause the sun to blow up. But Slugman with Googly Eyes thinks that, and so does everyone else. So... The doctor points out this really clearly obvious fact about basic physics in orbits, and Asmael's like, I'm a fucking idiot. You are totally right. I don't know why I trusted Slugman with Googly Eyes to not betray me or trick me in any way. I thought he was a totally upstanding Slugman with Googly Eyes. So then, Perry and the other dude are doing something. And so then, Colin Baker and Asmael are like, well, we'll just go confront Slugman with Googly Eyes, and everything will be fine. So, Colin Baker and Slugman with Googly Eyes go to confront... Colin Baker and Asmael go to confront Slugman with Googly Eyes, who has psychic powers. Remember, he has psychic powers. So then the doctor throws a bottle at him.
Yeah, that part was weird.
And the guy's force field turns on, and he's like, dude, did you think I was just going to let you walk in here and have no means of protecting myself? Are you a fucking idiot? You fucking idiot. And the doctor's like, I'm kind of a fucking idiot. But then... Slugman with Googly Eyes uses his power to try to take over the doctor, but then, because the doctor's taunting him, he's like, you can't take over me, Slugman with Googly Eyes, that would be like dropping a pebble into a lake. It's actually kind of like that metaphor. It's just like his mind can't take over the doctor's mind, because the doctor's mind is so fucking huge. But Asmael knows that probably would actually just kill the doctor. So then... For some reason, I don't remember at all, Slugman with Googly Eyes takes over Asmael's mind. But when that happens, the doctor had another bottle with, hydrochloric acid in it or something. I don't know. So then the doctor just straight up fucking chucks that at that fucking Googly Eye motherfucker. And that dude fucking dissolves, and it is, really shocking and violent. You're like, holy fucking shit. You didn't just kill that dude. You, fucking obliterated him. But Slugman with Googly Eyes' mind is still in Asmael. So then Asmael just dies. And then the doctor's like, and then Asmael's like, remember that time by the fountain, doctor? And he's like, we just kind of alluded to it once really early on in the story. I don't really remember what it's about. And so then Asmael dies, and it's really, really sad. And so
no,
then,
it's not.
So then the blue people with mustaches are now freed from the control of the tyrannical Slugman with Googly Eyes.
Won't their planet die still or something?
No, because they haven't done it yet. They haven't done it yet because... Romulus and Remus, Wesley Crusher A and B, they did all the calculations, but they destroyed their calculations and they only remember them. Smart kids.
The doctor tells them to do that.
Yeah, and they're just doing math. So, I don't know. I don't know what means they're actually going to use to get the planets to do any of this nonsense, but calculations. So then, the one dude with the gun shot a couple of people, so he did his thing. And then... Perry's there, and then the blue people are freed, and then the Doctor and Perry go back onto the TARDIS, and then the Doctor's like, I am the Doctor.
It's a great...
Whether you like it or not.
And then
I wrote bomb!
I wrote it down because I love the end of this episode so much, the speech.
And that's the end. Yeah.
He says... And I would suggest, Perry, that you wait a little before criticizing my new persona. You may well find that it isn't quite as disagreeable as you think. Whatever else happens, I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not.
And they play ominous music when he says that, whether you like it or not, too. I forgot that part.
That is the biggest Freudian slip of all time. That whole speech.
But, like, it makes me wonder, like, that speech is so on the nose. It makes me wonder if, like, that part was, like, if there was any way that was, like, put in after, like, the first episode aired or something. Because that's almost what it sounds like, you know, that they knew that people were going to be like, what the fuck are you people doing with the Doctor?
Yeah.
Because from this perspective, like, I don't have any problem with Colin Baker's Doctor choking out Perry when he first regenerates. Like, it's kind of a shocking scene, but I think it's interesting. Like, they try to do something different with his regeneration. But I totally understand how, at the time, people would have, like, rejected the fuck out of that. So I wonder if they just, like, looked at that in advance and were like, we're doing something that's just going to totally alienate our audience, so let's just be really tongue-in-cheek about it and on the nose and break the fourth wall. I don't know, but that's what they do.
So, Sean...
Yes.
Your explanation of this episode, I'm not sure if it helps me explain it anymore.
And
but
again,
it seems I think
some of that might have been a little off.
Okay.
Again, like, I don't fully understand all the circumstances revolving around the death of Slugman with googly eyes, but he dissolved like a motherfucker.
Yes, but what I was going to say is, it certainly makes the episode sound a lot more entertaining.
You see, because that would have been great if that was one episode. Like, one 20 minutes episode. Because that's the thing about this story also, is all of this stuff could have just been cut down basically into one 20 minutes, because nothing happens for almost, like, you could have cut out half the characters in the thing and it would have changed. So,
yeah. Let's talk about the Doctor.
Okay.
That's the big, interesting point for me here. Is because I think we covered the story well enough.
Yeah.
So, it's really interesting. What got me through these 4 episodes, and whatever enjoyment I got out of it, was from the Doctor. But it wasn't from how he was written or presented. Yeah. It's just Colin Baker, because I think the writing for the Doctor in this episode is objectively terrible.
Sure.
This is the thing about Spearhead from Space, and then the other ones we're going to talk about today, Christmas Invasion and 11th Hour, is that what makes those good Doctor introduction episodes isn't just that they're a good story and it's a good performance and everything, it's that whoever wrote it sat down and said, who do I want the Doctor to be?
Yeah.
And they had an interpretation, and they presented that interpretation, and they gave the actor room to act, and they presented that interpretation in a dynamic way.
Yeah.
The writing in the Twin Dilemma does none of those things.
Yeah.
They have no fucking clue what the Sixth Doctor is going to be, so the entire serial is every 5 minutes they're just throwing a new personality at the wall, and they're going to see if it sticks, and they're just going to throw more at the wall, and there's nothing, and they don't even present him in a dynamic way, because the first episode is just him walking in circles around the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, what's a classic Doctor, you know, introduction scene? It's him getting his costume. But it's not him going and stealing it. It's not him going and getting it at the end of a, you know, big adventure with fun music playing. Yeah. It's just, hey, Perry, the room's over here. Let's go do it. It's just, it's the complete
he's just, like, casually strolling around the dressing room, and he's like, nah. No.
So it's not even, there's not even a good explanation for how the fuck he got that terrible costume. Which I kind of like.
The costume designer was fucking on acid.
Right.
So, the costume designer was probably like fucking tripping like a bitch, and then they were like, this is just all one solid color. And then they sobered up and they're like, oh god, no it's not. But it had already been sent in and accepted, so.
I guess so. So, yeah, so it's all just the laziest way of doing it. He's just manic all over the place, and yet I think Colin Baker is so fucking good in this.
Yeah.
He makes it work. Somehow, miraculously, just through sheer force of talent.
Yeah.
He just pushes his way through all the bad, scattershot writing, and he makes the Doctor feel like a character. Mm-hmm. An actual incarnation I would watch more of.
Yeah.
You know, it honestly reminds me of, we talked about this with Clara, the latest companion in Season 7 of Doctor Who, is... It's not nearly to the degree the Sixth Doctor is here, but she was a different character in every episode.
Yeah. Especially like when she had solidified as like Clara,
companion,
as opposed to like all the other versions.
Right, I don't mean she was literally a different like body. I mean like
but like when she was actually properly companion Clara,
her personality just kind of kept changing.
Yeah, definitely.
And yet, Jenna Coleman was so good that when you get to Time of the Doctor and the last episode of Matt Smith, you really, I think, are invested in her as a companion.
Yeah.
You like her as a character. She's just that good. And obviously, it's a much more dire situation with the Sixth Doctor here. Yeah. But Colin Baker, I mean, you can see why they cast him. He is an interesting presence for this character. I like him. I think he's really interesting. I feel like if they had some... And there are hints of what a good characterization are here. Like the way he is very smug and very kind of self-satisfied about things. He plays those really interestingly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they ever found what the Sixth Doctor's character was on
fully.
TV.
Yeah, their writing never quite nailed it the way that Colin did.
But he's doing it. He's a good doctor.
Yeah, no. He finally got his chance with the audio dramas.
Right.
Which are really good, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm really... What I wanted... It was too late last night, but I have at least one Sixth Doctor audio drama, and I wanted to go listen to it and just hear, like, did they fucking figure him out here? Like, because I would love for him to be able to give this performance in a good setting.
Yeah, especially in the ones where his companion is Evelyn Smythe.
Okay. I have one where it's Frobisher. So...
Well, yeah.
I'm excited for that, too.
That was pretty good, too.
Frobisher, if you don't know, shape-shifting penguin.
Yeah, exactly.
So, awesome. That's the beauty of an audio drama. You can have a shape-shifting penguin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, what was Colin Baker thinking, though, during all of this, where it's like, I am giving this 110%, and they are giving me nothing. Like, is there history about that? Was he pissed off at Doctor Who? Like,
I don't know. I think especially, like, when shit started getting, like, really bad with, like, the Trial of Time Lord. Like, I'm not talking about the quality of the episodes, but, like, shit getting bad in terms of, like, the situation for the show and the BBC. I think that he, like... was very extremely frustrated then.
Yeah.
Like, so much so that eventually, he did not come back to, like, do his scene with Sylvester to regenerate. Yeah. So, yeah, like, he was not... I don't know, like, early on how his reaction was to, like, the scripts and stuff, but, yeah.
It's just, it's amazing to me because he is clearly in for it. He wants to go for it. He has passion for this role.
Definitely.
And I think, the best thing I can say is that there's a quality to every Doctor who's ever been the Doctor on Doctor Who, where no matter how bad or boring an episode gets, if the Doctor is on screen, I'm interested because the Doctor is an interesting character.
Yeah.
And he has that quality. Even in the midst of this awful episode, Colin Baker can do that. Even in the midst of not having a character to play, he can do it. And, that's great. That's really interesting to me, but he's getting shit to play.
Yeah. The plot is nonsense and barely makes any sense. And all the most of the other actors are terrible, or they're playing characters that don't even need to exist. Yeah. Then Perry is there, and Nicola Bryant's trying to do her fucking awful American accent.
I want to defend Perry a little bit in this story.
Okay.
Because I understand Nicola Bryant is very limited as an actress.
Yeah.
Her accent, you say it's American, I don't know what she's trying to do.
Well, yeah, I'm saying it's supposed to be American.
Yeah. I have no history with Perry, so I know he says she's American at one point. I'm like, oh, that's what she is, okay. Yeah. I thought she was an alien.
They straight up go to America. I mean, they don't actually, the show does not go to America, but the story goes to America in Dragonfire, and they pick her up in a bikini, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe she's actually on vacation. I don't think they ever find her in America. Maybe she's not actually American. Maybe they just assumed she was American. I don't know, because I'm pretty sure they don't actually go to America when they find her.
Okay.
She's also a botanist. I remember that.
Yeah,
I just usually come up.
Honestly, because I'd forgotten what I knew of Perry from Caves of Androzani, because she's knocked out for most of that serial. So, the way he's talking about her name and stuff, I assumed she was an alien for a while. But
Perpigillium? What kind of fucking name is Perpigillium?
Yeah. So I thought with that and her weird voice and her weird style, I kind of assumed she was an alien. But she's American, okay. Maybe to British people we're aliens. Yeah. I don't know. British people are weird too, so it happens.
Definitely true.
But anyway, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
Given what she is asked to do in this episode, and her writing is every inch as scattershot as the Doctor's, every inch, and having to react to this just manic, crazy incarnation, I think the energy she brought to this story, or exists in the story because of her, was a benefit to the Twin Dilemma, because I think, given just how manic the Doctor is here, and how Colin Baker has to try really hard to, unify these personalities, I think her very kind of combative personality with him, I think it works. I think it's a chemistry within this episode that their back and forth works enough. I'm not saying she's a great companion in this context, but I think you know, of all the things that annoyed me in the Twin Dilemma, she was not high on the list.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. Like my annoyance with her is just like her as a character persisting across all of her stuff, and it's not all her fault because again, she's a companion during the worst era of Doctor Who's. It's not Nicola Bryant's fault. I mean, I hope it was not her decision to do an American accent. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I'm pretty sure John Nathan Turner said I was like, you have to do an American accent. She's like, I cannot do an American accent. Like, in no world can I do an American accent. John Nathan Turner's like, yes, you can.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
It is never anybody's choice to do an American accent. When you watch British people have to do American accents,
sure,
it is never anyone's choice.
Yeah.
Because 99 times out of 100, it's awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. I think, like, just with all the bad things going on in here, I thought the scenes between the Doctor and Perry were my favorite scenes. So I can't dismiss her entirely in this story. I also obviously cannot imagine her being an effective companion going forward, and as I understand, she's not.
Nope.
So, like I've seen one other Perry episode. The other Sixth Doctor story I've seen, which
Revelation of the Daleks.
Yes,
yeah,
she's in that.
Yeah,
and honestly,
where's that one? Resurrection.
Yeah, whichever one it is.
Yeah,
it's
the
one
Sixth
with
Doctor
Davros.
Dalek story.
Yeah. Whichever one it is, I will say, it's a better episode than Twin Dilemma. Twin Dilemma was more interesting to me. That Dalek one, whatever it was he showed me, was just fucking boring. I don't remember anything from it. So, yeah.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I find them both not that good. I made a big mistake when, like, that, the best Sixth Doctor episode is Vengeance on Varos. Like, I've since we did that one, like, that was like 2 years ago.
Longer than that now, yeah.
I've rewatched a couple of Sixth Doctor ones. If you want to watch a good Sixth Doctor story, Vengeance on Varos and The Mysterious Planet are kind of the only two you can get, as far as I'm concerned.
Or just go to the audio dramas.
Yeah. But if you want to watch a classic episode of Doctor Who that has the Sixth Doctor in it.
If you want to see the rainbow outfit.
Yeah.
Doctor and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Exactly.
That's really what we should call it. It's his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
So, totally. He is preparing for a role on Broadway. He will be playing Joseph. He's a method actor. That's why he has to wear the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Exactly.
Given all the other personalities they threw at him, that could be one of them.
Sure,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Yeah. Twin Dilemma, man.
Twin Dilemma. God.
I would love to talk to the people involved at the time and just know how it happened. Because if it were at least a break between seasons, I wouldn't have the question.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know, is the Fifth Doctor's last season, I know it's probably not all up to the level of Caves with Androzani, but is any of it down to this level?
I would have to look at the list of the episodes, but I don't think so. Because there's only a couple of really bad ones. Time Flight? Look up when Time Flight is.
I don't have internet set up on here yet. So.
Well, if Time Flight is in the last season of the Fifth Doctor, then yes, there would be one that is on that level.
Okay.
But I think that's the second season. I don't remember.
Okay. It's just interesting.
Time Flight's really bad.
But it is interesting to me, because it's like, you don't usually see these fluxes within a season. I don't get it. So, whatever. Anything else to say about the Twin Dilemma?
Can we just, again, the twins, the acting, that's not acting.
No, it's nothing.
They just, like, said lines.
But
like,
they're also not given anything. They're just...
But still, like, you can have a person that has, like, 2 lines and can still just be, like, deliver it well. Like, just because they don't have anything doesn't mean that it's excusable that they are fucking atrocious in their acting.
I preferred them to actual Wesley Crusher.
I don't know, man. Because the actual Wesley Crusher is, like, he just ruins whole portions of that entire show. Yes. But, like... But the twins are so bad. Like, even if they don't have that much of a presence, like, the sheer lack of acting ability and just nothing presence is astounding. Like, they might as well not have been on screen. Like, you might as well had, like, a guy reading their lines deadpan off camera, and you would have gotten more out of the performance than having them on screen and trying to deliver their lines.
No, I probably agree with that. The thing is, I probably prefer that kind of just abject blandness to Wesley Crusher's proactive annoyingness.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. I hate Wesley Crusher to the degree where There's an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation in season 1 where they're on this planet, and for some reason you can't walk on the grass, or else you get executed.
Yes,
and
it's the sex planet in a show where you can't
right.
do anything sexy.
Yeah, it's
big mistake. Everywhere around on that episode. Big mistake.
That episode is simultaneously my favorite and least favorite episode of Next Generation because it promises you a Wesley Crusher execution. And then it doesn't deliver it. So at least for 40 minutes of that episode, I can just imagine Wesley Crusher getting beheaded, and I can be happy. But then at the end, fucking, Picard has to come in and stop it. Do his captain's duty, which is bullshit.
Because he just, Wesley broke...
the Prime Directive!
Yeah, the Prime Directive.
He deserves to die. The actual following of the Prime Directive in that story would be to let Wesley fucking die. And Picard
unfortunately, Captain Picard is, the worst captain the Federation has ever had. Even worse than Kirk. Because his show goes on for longer, so he breaks the Prime Directive way more times than Kirk ever did.
Yeah.
Just because he's given way more opportunity. Because they just break the Prime Directive every time in that show. Anyways, let's stop talking about Star Trek. We're here to talk about the Twin Dilemma.
I think we're done with the Twin Dilemma.
Okay.
Yes, the dilemma of the Twin Dilemma.
Yeah.
That could be a documentary someone was going to kickstart someday.
Yes,
I don't know.
How did the googly-eyed Slugman costume, how did that get made? Again...
Oh, we didn't talk about that yet, just the production design. Oh, right, my God. With the Star Trek episode I was thinking of was, in the original series, one of the best episodes ever is this one where it's the pain!
Yeah, where they have the silicon-based life form.
Yeah,
the planet.
And it's a great episode, but the actual silicon-based life form is just ridiculous. It's like a blanket.
It's like plastic throw-up or something, yeah.
It's like a blanket on top of a cat, It's just
really,
silly.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's better than anything in the Twin Dilemma.
Oh, God, yeah.
You described a slug with googly eyes. You're not exaggerating.
Yeah, no, the eyes don't bounce, but they are just googly eyes. And then the best part of that character design, too, is he has googly eyes, and then he has eye stalks on top of his head with googly eyes on those, too. It's why do you have a head with normal front-facing eyes like a human, and eye stalks with eyes on them, too? What is the point of that? How did that creature evolve?
And then, all the sound design around it is really bad, too. Part of why I couldn't understand the story...
the Slugman's voice is just incomprehensible.
Yeah, and the blue people with mustaches, too. You just can't... Yeah. There's nothing.
And there's a great... When Slugman with googly eyes takes over Asmael, they do a great thing where it's his voice is supposed to be coming out of Asmael's mouth, but, the lip-syncing is just, not even there. It might just... it's, looking at the worst dub ever. He's just... Yeah.
Good God.
The sets look really bad. Particularly, I remember when it's just the first thing you see, basically, is Romulus and Remus's room. It's just it's just really bad set design. It looks like a fucking, play school. It's awful.
And just in terms of style, I think they even make, the fucking TARDIS interior look boring.
Yeah.
It's just they don't light it as well. It's they're just kind of there. It's they've got a fucking little DVR hand cam.
Yeah.
And they're just dicking around with it. I don't know. It's just weird. So yeah.
Yeah, the production design, even for Doctor Who standards. That Slugman costume, that is one of the worst Doctor Who, costumes ever. I've seen all of them. It is as bad as, the worst shit from the first Doctor. It's like Zarbi bad effect. It's really terrible.
Zarbi?
Yeah, the ant creatures from the web planet that are basically just people standing in, a papier-mâché ant.
That actually sounds awesome, though.
It's a really special episode of Doctor Who.
Okay.
It's I think it might be the only episode of Doctor Who that has no human-like aliens in it. There are definitely aliens, but they're all, weird moth people and ant people.
There is a reason at the end of the day, all aliens in sci-fi should probably just be humanoid. Because when you go outside of that, you tend to fuck up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Daleks are cool, and they could not... A Dalek cannot cost more to make than Slugman with googly eyes. They are simple effects,
right? Yeah.
The Cybermen are fucking dudes in papier-mâché cardboard shit, you know?
With, silver paint. Yeah.
Right. You can do it better. It's it's clearly not an issue of money in the Twin Dilemma. It's effort.
Yeah. They just should we try to make eyes on this thing to make it? It's I got some googly eyes. It looks too silly when they bounce. Let's just pop it open and then glue the googly eye in place. There, that looks perfect.
So stupid.
So bad.
Okay, we can talk about Twin Dilemma for another hour.
Yeah.
We should probably just move on.
Okay, sure.
So let's go ahead and move on. All right, Sean. So we've got the Christmas Invasion.
Yes.
So next one, we're fast forwarding many years in
Yes.
Doctor history, and I should ask you.
Yes.
So we had the twin dilemma. Between this and Christmas Invasion was the Seventh Doctor's introduction story.
Time in the Ronnie. Yeah.
Is that any better?
It's better.
Okay.
It's not much better.
Not much
Time
better.
in the Ronnie is pretty fucking rotten. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have the Eighth Doctor movie. It's pretty rotten, also.
Out of the three of these, the
That's the
Doctor
best,
movie is
yes.
easily the best.
Yeah.
Eric Roberts on that movie, pretty fucking special. Pretty
okay.
fucking special performance.
Yep, and they kill the Seventh Doctor by having him get shot by San Francisco street punks.
You know, it's a step up from Sixth Doctor
Banging his head.
Yeah, banging his head on the TARDIS console when he collapses and regenerating for no explained reason.
Okay, he had soft skull syndrome, I guess. I don't
Exactly,
know.
yeah. There's a weird problem. That's something went wrong with his regeneration.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, and then we had the Ninth Doctor's introduction episode, which is different because it's a new start to the series.
Yeah.
We decided not to talk about it here because it's just not a regeneration kind of story because he's already regenerated. He's had some history, clearly. There's those pictures of him on the Titanic and stuff.
Yeah.
Although, those could have happened later, technically.
Yeah, because it's time travel. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's a different kind of thing. Christmas Invasion is, I guess, the next good Doctor introduction story in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So when
after Castrovalva, it's the next good Doctor introduction story. You're right.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Because there's so many good ones, but it sounds like there's a lot
Yeah,
of bad ones, too.
They had a good run.
Yeah.
Up till the Sixth Doctor and the Twin Dilemma. It's like all the Doctor introduction stories were at least good to actually great. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christmas Invasion. This is an interesting one. So, let's see. I just watched it again this morning. I hadn't seen it in a while. When's the last time you've seen it?
It's probably been a year, maybe 2 years. It's been
Okay.
a while.
All right. So let's see. It's interesting to me because this is an episode I really loved the first time I saw it because I started with a revived Doctor Who. Basically, the difference between Sean and me is I wanted to watch Doctor Who. I looked at the history of the series and I'm like, it would be really tough to start at the beginning because there's all these missing episodes and shit and they're not easily available. So, but this revived series started. It's on Netflix. I mean, it wasn't on Netflix at the time, but it was still easy to get. And I'm like, I'll just start there, and if I like it, maybe I'll watch some classic stuff later. That's what I did. Sean, you looked at it and you're like, challenge accepted.
I'm just like, I'm not a bitch. And I spent a year of my life watching Doctor Who.
All right. So when you got to the Christmas Invasion, you had a long history with the series.
Yes.
When it was for me, this was the first regeneration story, coupled with the Ninth Doctor's last episode that I'd ever seen. And I think if you're coming to Doctor Who fresh, and you start with the revived series, and you see that first season, and Eccleston regenerates at the end of that, and then you go into Christmas Invasion, I think Christmas Invasion works amazingly because I think it eases you into the idea of what regeneration is and how this works and how you're replacing the Doctor, you're going to have a new guy. I think it does that all really well. It did the first time I saw it. I have fond memories of it because of that. Rewatching it, I've rewatched it a couple times since that first time, which was years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's worked less for me every time. The parts that are great are always great. Anything with David Tennant in this episode.
Yeah, when he comes in and has the sword fight, it's
great.
Good into the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think all the stuff leading up to that, which again, I think when you first saw it, it was important to have that first half where it's, you don't see a lot of David Tennant. It's Rose and her family. And again, if you start with the revived series, those are the only other characters you know.
Yeah.
So you start with them, you ease into it. I think it works. I think all the delayed satisfaction is good in that sense, and I think the way they pay it off with the Sycorax is ranting, and then he turns into speaking into English. It translates, and that's how they know the Doctor is revived. It's a really good moment.
Yeah, they are.
But I will say, every time I watch it, rewatch it, I don't have a lot of tolerance for all the Rose and her family stuff.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I watched like the first 20 minutes, and I was like, I'm bored, and I fast forwarded up to the moment when Tennant comes in to have a sword fight.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because again, it's what's the function of the episode. It was at the time, it was for new people, I think, and I think it works well on that level. Having seen a lot more Doctor Who now, the episode does not hold up the same way to me. Also, it's tough for me to ever go back to a Rose story because, while I really liked Rose in the first season, and even into Christmas Invasion, they fucking drove her into the ground so hard in season 2. It's tough to go back to that character, and I don't blame Billie Piper for it. I think she's good. I think she's good here.
Yeah.
But, all that stuff kind of... And like Mickey, I'm just waiting for Mickey to get into the TARDIS, which it doesn't happen here yet. So, anyway. I mean, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of feel the same way you do. I'd have to rewatch it because I think I've seen it twice, but it's been a while since I watched any of like the David Tennant early stuff. Because I kind of, if I'm watching something that's David Tennant, I kind of just avoid season 2 in general.
It's not good.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you're exactly spot on that. All the stuff with Rose and her family is not terrible, but it's just boring compared to like what you really want to see. And I remember thinking that the first time I saw it, but like the payoff is so good when David Tennant does pop in. It's really it's a fantastic introduction to a new Doctor. So that stuff is all sort of like worth it the first time through. Yeah, like I don't know how I'd feel if I rewatched it about watching through all the Rose and her family stuff. Cause it just gets sort of grating after a while.
Yes, so it's interesting, and I think you have to kind of start and end this discussion with David Tennant because, well, we say until he shows up. He actually has the one scene at the very beginning where they land on Earth. Yeah. He climbs out of the TARDIS, which I love. The one scene of him in the leather jacket, the Eccleston jacket. Yeah, David Tennant has a great actual costume, but it's funny to see him in the leather jacket because it's too big for him.
Yeah, it just looks too big. Yeah,
it's really funny.
Yeah, I always like when they just literally put on the other dude's costume because it clearly doesn't even fit them. Yeah, they didn't remake the costume for the new guy.
Right. And actually, I think what it always reminds me of is David Tennant has a part in I think the 4th Harry Potter movie. And it's in it for 3 seconds. But I think he has a leather jacket like that in his one scene. And I always flash back to that. I think it's kind of funny. But anyway, and the moment he steps out of the TARDIS, the role is just his. He's got it. He's the Doctor. And more than anything else, I think Russell T Davies knows how he wants to write this Doctor. Yeah. And I think Tennant knows how he wants to play him. And the 10th Doctor is there. He is there on arrival. Yeah. He doesn't take time to get into character, and when he comes back later in the episode and he has the big sword fight scene and everything else, it's just he owns the role instantaneously. Yeah. He's just got it down. And I think that was also very important for me watching the revived series going through where, I did that first season. Christopher Eccleston is the guy who got me into Doctor Who because he's the Doctor in that season. And then it was, you have to accept the new guy. And if the whole thing with Doctor Who is you have to buy into that first regeneration you see or the show doesn't work. Yeah. And because I think Christmas Invasion is effective in the ways it's effective, you buy into that and then revived Doctor Who works. Yeah. And then you never have to worry about it again. Yeah, I mean, obviously they can't drop the ball qualitatively on these, but it can work, and it works well here because David Tennant is just clearly he is having so much fun being there and being in that role, and I think I often associate, even though the 10th Doctor has a lot of dark stuff, I just remember laughing at him, and he's a funny Doctor, and he's a fun character, and that's what I get out of this episode. Is there's a lot of just he's there and he's having fun with it, and he makes you have fun with it, and that's great. And there's a fucking sword fight in space, and it's just great. Yeah.
Sycorax.
Yes.
Good.
And there's some good lines near the end. There's the whole thing about, is that what I am now? Rude and not ginger. His description of what he isn't. I love that. I love the whole thing where the Sycorax is, I demand to know who you are, and he's like, I don't know. That whole thing is great. He quotes the Lion King when he's describing what Earth is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He just starts saying Circle of Life. Yeah. It's great. And then the part where he's defeated the alien and he finds the Satsuma in his clothes. Yeah. And he says, but doesn't that just sum up Christmas? You go through all your presents and then tucked away there at the end is always one fat old Satsuma. Yeah. And then the guy, the alien gets up to shoot him and he throws the thing and kills it with the Satsuma. So it's, it's all linked and it's really good.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. There's weird things in this episode. Sure. I always think Russell T Davies did not fully understand how dark he made it at the end, and the episode doesn't acknowledge it, because Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, blows up the entire Sycorax race, and that would be bad enough. But then, it's snowing at the end, and the Doctor just casually mentions, this isn't snow, it's ash. It's we are all bathing in the flesh of our alien foes. Yeah. That is so fucked up, and nobody acknowledges it. The happy music keeps playing. They're making snowmen. They're not really making snowmen, but that's the tone, right?
Yeah, they're making Sycorax ashmen.
Yes, it's just, that's really fucked up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I forgot that's the one where it ends with the ashes is the snow. I always forget which Christmas one it is. Fucking yeah.
It's such a tonal shift, and the thing is, the actual end of the episode is a bunch of happy scenes. Like, there's the big musical montage where he gets the costume, and then there's the scene at the end where I really like his last conversation with Rose, which is, she says, well, where are you going? And he's like, oh, back out on an adventure, and she basically says, can I come with you? And he says, well, of course, if you want. And it's like they're both they're both a little nervous about if the other will still like them. Yeah. I liked that. That's a really nice moment, but they are, again, bathing in the bodies of their enemies. It's fucked up. So that's weird. I think it's weird that, this is just something. Rose was always weird in this way, but it's like the whole episode she's complaining about the doctor has left her and that he's not the man he was, and it's like, shut the fuck up. You just, and I mean like an hour ago, saw him die to save your fucking life because of that bad wolf bullshit. Yeah. So shut the fuck up. It's not even like he didn't explain. In Christopher Eccleston's Regeneration, he explains what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no, mystery. It's like...
Yeah, he's, straight up says, it's like, I'm going to change, I'm going to be different, you need to prepare for this.
Yeah.
And then he changes, and he's different, and she ain't prepared for it at all.
It's like, again, what an ungrateful bitch. It's like, he saved your life, and now you're like, oh, he saved my life an hour ago, but he's not saving it now, so fuck him. I don't get it.
He's not a good, weird, magic, time-traveling boyfriend anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that weird relationship stuff with him and Rose is always...
But
so what brought season 2 down?
Yeah, well...
among other things, but that, I think, principally, that driving
philosophy... it is. Yeah.
Brought a whole season to its knees.
Yeah. I always think back... the moment in season 2 where I know I just have to check out is that awful two-parter with the Devil Pit.
Planet. Yeah.
Where they lose the TARDIS and they're sitting in that cafe and he basically says he's going to just spend the rest of his life with her. I was like, just because you don't have the TARDIS doesn't mean you have to... the rest of your life, Doctor, is going to be a long time. She's going to live another 60 years.
Yeah.
So...
And even probably not that long, because out in space, she's probably been exposed to all kinds of weird radiation and shit. She's probably got, every form of exotic, cancer and disease you could possibly get. So, she's probably got, a year at most. The dark part about traveling with a doctor that you don't really find out about. Is
that how you like to retcon Rose's story? It's just a year after she stopped traveling with him, she died of space cancer?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, it's too bad. Rose is very clearly a good companion one season, and then kind of an awful companion the next season. It's a flip.
Mm-hmm.
And it taints a lot of stuff. But, there's so many good moments in this. I also love at the end of the episode, this is one of the moments that really sold the 10th Doctor for me when I first saw it, is when it's at the end of that conversation I was saying they had. It's really nice. And he says, and it's going to be fantastic. And he says the Eccleston line. And I think, and that's what sold the idea of regeneration to me, because this is something we take for granted as Doctor Who fans, that this is one character in 12 bodies.
Yeah.
Or 15 or whatever.
Bodies.
Yeah. But I think when you see it for the first time, that moment when you buy into it and you're like, oh, this is literally the same character, he's just got a new body, that's really cool. And I think the way they show that there, where they just have him say fantastic, and you see Christopher Eccleston there for a second, and you understand that all that history is still there.
Yeah.
It's a really nice moment. And it's a really kind of economic way to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked that. It's a good episode. It's just, it's slow in the middle, but, it's hard for me to talk about now because, again, I think it works the first time you see it. Doesn't so much hold up to rewatching, and then there's the weird stuff with the dead body Ash at the end.
Yeah, but sword fight.
Sword fight, yeah.
Sword fight.
Of course, then there's the whole thing where he gets his hand cut off, and that's going to become a plot point that'll lead to the number of doctors thing. So, yeah, and then there's
worth for the sword fight.
Yeah,
Doctor doesn't get in sword fights enough.
No, and I love also that it is a sword fight in his pajamas, high above Earth. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to note, I don't know if Netflix updated all their video masters for Doctor Who, but this looked substantially better than last time I watched a Russell T Davies era Doctor Who episode. It's still, obviously there are the limitations from how they shot it.
Yeah.
But if you remember, the Russell T Davies episodes of Doctor Who just look really bad, blurry soap operas.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially the earlier ones.
Yeah, they were shot on SD video and stuff, and it just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And Christmas Invasion here, I watched it this morning on Netflix, and I was like, "There's detail in this. I can see individual strands of hair. It's wasn't all blurry.
It's not just one big block of
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always amazing to me when I think about that, how much Doctor Who has advanced in the last 8 seasons, where it started looking like that, and now in the Matt Smith era, it's like this pristine HD big budget production.
Yeah, like every episode almost looks like a movie.
Yeah. It's crazy. So and they're putting the fucking episodes in theaters now.
Yeah,
right. It's crazy. But yeah. So any other thoughts on the Christmas Invasion?
I like it. It's a good. It's not like the greatest Doctor introduction story ever, but it's like a really good, solid one. And you're right on the mark about if it's like your first one, if you just started with a new series, like having all the introducing you to him through Rose again was a smart choice, even if it makes it hard to rewatch.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I wanted to say, him getting his costume, seeing him put it on for the first time is a reminder of how fucking great the 10th Doctor costume is.
Yeah, it's a really good really fucking good Doctor costume. Yeah.
I mean, especially after,
the best of them.
Especially watching this right after Twin Dilemma, it just stresses how good a costume that is.
Yeah.
And how bad a costume
Colin Baker's costume is so ugly.
I mean, but that's pretty amazing to me that they really only fucked the costume up once. That badly.
Yeah, like that badly. Yeah. Like, they made bad decisions with, the question mark pullover for the 7th Doctor and stuff.
But Sylvester McCoy just owns it. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, he desperately tried, his entire tenure on Doctor Who to get rid of that question mark bullshit.
Yeah, I know, but it's something I kind of love in spite of it.
Sure, yeah.
It's definitely better than the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, it's just that one.
But anyway, let's talk about the last one for today, the 11th Hour, the most recent one. And, we've talked about this episode a couple times on this show, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about within this context.
Sure.
Especially after watching Spearhead from Space, I'm actually glad we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it definitely follows a lot of that model. Mm-hmm. And, we've said it before. The 11th Hour is just a great Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
You don't have to make any qualms about it. It's one of the great modern ones.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And, it set a tone for the Matt Smith era. And while there's the stray bad episode in the Matt Smith era, it's a great era of Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that is because they got it right from the bat.
Yeah.
And I did not rewatch the 11th Hour for this podcast. I've seen it so many fucking times.
Yeah.
I've probably seen it more than any other Doctor Who episode. I've just watched it a lot. I just think... it's got everything you need for this era to work. It's got not just this phenomenal introduction to the 11th Doctor, but to, what's the tone going to be and how are we going to have the mysteries of the time travel.
Of the show. Yeah.
Whole new style, and I think, it gives you little hints of all the different tones he's going to play, because there's the old Doctor in this, there's the young, kind of excited, energetic Doctor, there's the funny Doctor, there's the very serious Doctor he's going to play. Matt Smith is a very dynamic Doctor, and they're all in here, and there's so many possible, directions for them to go after this, and by the end of his tenure, they went in all of them, and they brought it back together. Mm-hmm. It's especially good to think about this now that we've seen The Time of the Doctor, which is not a perfect episode, but it brought everything, put a cap on everything.
Yeah.
And now that this era is over, and you can go back to the 11th Hour and really feel like it all got paid off on eventually. So, yeah.
Yeah, it probably is the best. It's either that or Spearhead from Space.
I would say.
I'd probably say 11th Hour is the best.
I would probably say 11th Hour is the best because I think the punch at the end of him getting up on the roof and putting his costume on while he is giving the warning, and you have the images of all 10 Doctors flash by, and then he steps through it in full costume with the bow tie and says, "Run." Yeah.
It's really weird that they didn't have any John Hurt Doctor in, if he would have, why didn't they have the image of him? Because, even if he didn't consider himself the Doctor, those aliens still would have, known that he was the same being. It's really weird.
So are you saying that Stephen Moffat didn't have that planned out when he wrote this?
Yeah, it's weird. Huh. It's almost like that's a really stupid fucking thing to do, huh? Weird.
All right. Well, anyway. Well, let's talk about the 11th Hour, though. So, in terms of... I think the big thing it does that's different than a lot of Doctor introduction stories is it's got a full-on 20-minute prologue that's just him and Amy before you get into any of the main story stuff for this episode. And it's, this is as much an introduction for Amy Pond as it is the 11th Doctor.
Yeah, because it's a complete... you're just wiping the slate clean because it's Stephen Moffat's taking over the show. New companion. Fucking new sonic screwdriver. New TARDIS interior. Yeah.
Totally new musical score.
New intro and everything. Yeah.
Murray Gold is still the composer, but he threw out all the old music, started over again. There's a whole new theme and fanfare for the Doctor. New directors working on it.
Yeah.
It was the first episode. Well, No, the last couple of David Tennants were shot in HD, but the production values are kind of even better here.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally clean break, and one of the most effective things in this episode is the introduction of Amy and her connection to the Doctor. It's just beautiful, and it's so good here. You can see why they kept going back to that well with her.
Yeah.
I don't love the last Amy Pond episode by any means, but I understand why Stephen Moffat felt he had to close it with that image of young Amy waiting. Because that just, it endures. This episode, it's almost like this episode was so good, they were kind of destined to fuck up the landing on Amy and Rory. Because it casts such a big shadow, some of that stuff. But that's all great, and I've said this before. What's most interesting to me is that this is great, and it felt fresh and exciting and everything, even though the Amy Pond story, it's just Girl in the Fireplace redone a little bit. I mean, it's Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, it's the same basic concept.
Yeah, it's complete self-plagiarization, which is fine. If he was able to rework it in a way that would go over a season, not just an episode. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's cool, and I always like when I go back to the 11th Hour and knowing Amy better as a character. That the little girl who plays Little Amy is it's the best matching of an adult and a kid version.
That's definitely true. Yeah. So much so that it's when Amy, adult Amy, pops up when the Doctor time travels. The fact that he's just not able to recognize immediately that is the same girl is kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's even though they're not the same person, it's that's clearly that little girl grown up. They are the same human being, except for they're not, but they are.
Yeah. One is just wearing a sexy police officer uniform.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's also something that they never really deal with again, that she's this kissogram thing.
She's a kissogram,
Yeah. How much are you supposed to believe there's more to it than just is it just a kissogram thing?
No,
or
it's
is
just
it just a kissogram thing? Okay. Is a kissogram a real thing?
Not, maybe in Britain. I don't know if it's, over here, not really, no. What did you...
I don't know, is she doing more than that? What's going... I don't know.
Could you just... I don't know what you're talking about, Jonathan. Could you just say in detail what you're alluding to here?
Stripping and or prostitution? I don't know.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know.
Stripping, maybe. Like a little bit of a striptease.
Okay.
Probably not totally naked. That is a possibility.
All I'm saying is
prostitution, no fucking way.
I'm
weird
probably not.
Motherfucker.
No, I don't think that.
Your weird /fic is not Doctor Who canon.
It's not. I'm not trying to say /fic. I'm just saying when I've rewatched this episode, other people's reactions to her kissogram career seem out of line with what she's actually doing. That's all. If it's just a kissogram thing, it's who gives a shit? That's that's not much. It's fine. I'm just saying.
Sure. People's
reactions seemed a little out of whack.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's fine. It's funny. There's some good jokes out of it.
Yeah.
So let's see. I of course, there's the classic scene where he's trying all the foods, and I've always heard that Stephen Moffat got that from a Winnie the Pooh story. It's Tigger's introduction. Pooh keeps trying to give him food, and Tigger doesn't like any of it. Mm-hmm. And I've always liked that anecdote. That's where Stephen Moffat got that inspiration, because I just there is something very Tiggerish about the 11th Doctor.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah. But, I mean, the big thing here is that I've always said one of Matt Smith's greatest strengths is that, up to now, obviously, he is the oldest Doctor in terms of the series' canon.
Yeah.
And he played it like that. Mm-hmm. And right from the beginning here, you get that. Even though there's scenes where he's funny and he's, eating fish sticks with custard and things like that, there is that sense of, world on his shoulders, 1,000 years of wisdom, all this stuff. He's worn that Technicolor dream coat. It has shaped him.
He's put on a weird question mark sweater pullover.
Yeah. But, the 11th Hour is a 65-minute episode. It feels so much faster than that. It just flies by. There's lots of great little things. Rory is not the character he would become, but you kind of see what the seeds of that are.
Yeah, it's interesting because he gets introduced and you don't quite realize that he's going to be an important character.
No.
I wonder, he just seems like a background guy.
I really wonder when this was written if they had any intention of making him important, because maybe it was just Arthur Darville's so good, you see what he can do, it's we should probably write a part for him. Because it's basically the second half of season 5 when he becomes important.
Yeah.
But then he's dead for a couple episodes.
Yeah, I mean, he's always dead for a couple episodes, right?
Yeah, and then he's a Centurion. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, then he's an Auton. It's that.
Oh, they never Stephen Moffat
explained.
Did bring the Autons in. Rory became an Auton.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have an Auton episode, but the Autons are in the end of season 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Season 5 is great. The story gets very crazy.
Yeah.
Hard to remember all of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what else can we say about the 11th Hour? I mean, the music is so good in this.
Yeah, the new musical themes, especially the Doctor's main theme, is so fucking cool.
And I just love that he keeps kind of almost introducing it, and holds back until the big scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like really good sort of like building up of that
Yeah.
final moment where the Doctor just finally comes in and he's trying on all his clothes
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's a very different philosophy than the Christmas Invasion, which is we're going to hold back on showing the Doctor. This is he's there from moment one and in pretty much every frame of the episode.
He is your character.
Yeah.
He's the main character for it, and like you're introduced to Amy through him instead of the other way around.
So very interesting on that level. I'm really curious to see, knowing we've seen Stephen Moffat write this kind of Doctor introduction episode, and he's doing the 12th Doctor's introduction, and it's Peter Capaldi is the only thing that's changing. Everyone else is still there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the same writers for this season and everything, and it's Stephen Moffat still writing it. I wonder how he's going to approach it now, where you have...
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to try to make like a very distinct break in style for his new Doctor.
Yeah.
What?
It's going to be interesting. But, yeah. The 11th Hour was just, you go from the end of the end of time part 2, and it's a great regeneration story, and David Tennant's last episode is properly sad in all the right ways.
Yeah.
And then you start watching the 11th Hour, and just all of that goes away, and you're just excited for this new era.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to say, to put this in context, because this was the first episode of Doctor Who I watched live, day it aired. Pirated from Britain because it aired like a month later in America. They were still doing that back then. Yeah. But, I saw it when it started, and there was a lot of skepticism at the time. I mean, people did not like the idea of Matt Smith. They said he's too young. Everyone was making fun of him, and, there was this, whole new writing staff and everything, and I think there was a lot of...
The David Tennant fangirls.
Yeah, the David Tennant fangirls.
Like picket signs.
Yeah. And I wasn't feeling any of that. I was excited. I thought the trailers looked good and everything, but you still don't know what to think, and I think... people pretty immediately shut up because this was so good. You're always going to have the David Tennant fangirls. They will always be on YouTube writing about Ted Doctor.
Yeah.
But,
those weird 5-year-olds. Yeah.
Shut up. But yeah, so it's just, this was one that it was a statement of intent. And the intent was good, and it, kicked this era off right.
Yeah.
And it does have those Spearhead from Space parallels, where we're, it isn't just the hospital setting, it's kind of, it is the Doctor thrown into the thick of things. He arrives, he's not quite in his right state of mind, but he has all his facilities.
Yeah.
And he's got to save the world, and,
Yeah, and he kind of has nothing to do it with. Like, the 11th Hour really pushes that, because that's one of the best parts about the whole episode, is when shit starts kicking off, he's just like, I got nothing. Like, I just have nothing to do, I have no way to solve this problem, but I have to figure something out, and it's just, like, it's so frantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really fun. So... anything else to say about this one?
Really fucking good.
Really fucking good. I hope the next episode, Deep Breath, can be good.
Deep Breath.
Yes, I hope it's got the music from Persona 3.
Yeah. If it doesn't, it's a missed opportunity. Yeah. There's no way. There's absolutely, like, if it does, that would be the most glorious, miraculous thing ever.
I mean,
there's no world in which that's even possible.
No.
But
that would be like our two favorite things crossing over.
That would be like the moment we realize that Stephen Moffat actually listens to this podcast. You know? It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Stephen Moffat, if you're listening, please don't introduce any more fake doctors. I trust you mostly because you're a good writer, but once in a while you do silly things.
Yeah. Yeah, just like leave the past as the past,
Which,
what's done is done.
And I'll say, everything I've heard about this new season, I'm really encouraged by all the things I'm hearing about how they really want it to feel more like Classic Who. They want to do more just individual stories.
Yeah, they want a different kind of Doctor with Peter Capaldi. Yeah.
Here's my favorite thing. I heard this in an interview, that Peter Capaldi was adamant that there would be no flirting between him and Clara, and he made them remove some lines that he felt were too close to it. And good on you, Peter Capaldi.
Yeah. Get that shit out.
Yeah.
It's got way too much.
It's like when Roger Moore just put his foot down. It's like, guys, in James Bond, I am not kissing any more 18-year-old girls. My granddaughter is this old. Stop it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Stop doing this stuff to me. I don't want it.
Yeah.
You're making me feel weird.
Yep. But oh man, it's exciting. So yeah, our next podcast will be talking about the Doctor Who Series 8 premiere, or Season 34. I think that's what we're at now, yeah.
Yes, 34. Yeah.
And it's easy to tell because 33 seasons, 11 Doctors, breaks down to 3 a season. That's not exactly what they had, but I remember that as divisible. Average, yeah. So, yes.
Except for Doctors.
Long-running Doctors? I don't know. No, except the 8th Doctor was only in one thing.
Yeah. Numbers.
Okay.
We need to get those Romulus and Remus in here. And crunch the numbers for us.
Clearly, that's probably maybe that's what Deep Breath is going to be about. Like, I don't know anything about this new episode.
It's the secret sequel to the Twin Dilemma,
and it's the Doctor's like,
maybe they'll finally explain how they're going to use math to realign two planets into orbit.
What it's going to be is it's going to be the new Doctor asking Clara, like, so Clara, I forget, what Doctor am I at this point? You've seen them all, and she's like, I really don't know, because all this crazy shit is happening. It's like, you know what? We need some mathematicians to solve this. And they go and get Romulus and Remus.
Sure, yeah.
Sounds good.
Or maybe they do like a thing where it's like he goes back in time to the same time in like the events of Twin Dilemma, and it's like, so they have clips of Twin Dilemma, but then they like edit Peter Capaldi into the background. He's like sneaking around, messing with stuff, and so that way you can fix the plot and make it make sense.
There's got to be a Doctor Who writer out there who like wants to do that with a classic episode.
Who's probably like already written the script, and like when they were like 18 is like, it'll get made one of these days.
Maybe that'll be Neil Gaiman's next episode.
That's just me. Like, I've already done that. Yeah, I did that last night after I watched it.
All right, well,
one of these days.
So definitely there will be another episode next week. But we're not going to be as strictly weekly because I think we're probably going to record it earlier. I think as soon as we can after seeing the episode, I think we'll probably record an episode about it. That'll probably be either late Saturday or Sunday or Monday or something.
Yeah.
But we'll get that out, and then might be a little irregular for a week just because school is starting for both of us, and we've got to figure out, just maybe spend a week with new schedules before we figure out when we can podcast.
Yeah.
But should be good.
It might be weekly.
Yeah. It will be weekly because we're going to talk about every episod of Doctor Who. We have a topic for the next 12 weeks.
Yes. Okay, when you said that for a second, I was like, wait, what? Whoa.
Yes.
I have not dedicated myself to like 5 more years of this podcast, okay?
5? That'd be a lot more. I said every episode. We'd go like...
Oh, God.
So, a 6-episode serial, that's 2.5... Or that's a month and a half.
Yeah. Jeez, like we'd never make it out of the first Doctor era.
No. How many 800 weeks? That would be 40 years?
No,
4 years?
Wait. Oh, 800 weeks.
It's 800 episodes.
It's 52 weeks in the year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That would be 40 years, right?
No, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
No. I'm not doing that.
Okay. Yes, God, we'd be old by the time we finish the podcast.
Yes.
All right.
So that's that.
That's that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
So, Twin Dilemma, thumbs up?
Fuck you.